All right, listen, you're in for a treat. I'm living every man's fantasy, a threesome with two other guys. I got Keaton from Keaton Talks Sports. I got Keas from the Bak Talk Brothers. I'm going to hit the intro music. You don't want to miss this show. It's going to be a good one. Yes! Man, it's Friday night, and I'm doing my favorite thing in the world, but you guys are in for a big treat, as I got two special guest stars that are coming in. I have Keaton from Keaton Talks Sports joining me tonight. Keaton, what's up, man?
How you doing, Dan? Thanks for having me on.
Oh, man, hey, thank you. I love the jersey. Is it a number one jersey?
It is. This Cam Newton old jersey when he was with the Patriots.
Oh, the Cam Newton.
In the COVID year. Yeah.
I thought maybe it was N'Keal Harry. He's now playing tight end for the Vikings, which is really weird.
That is weird.
Yeah.
I didn't hear about that.
Yeah, he was a guy I absolutely loved coming out of the draft, and it hasn't worked out. So far, anyway. You never know. Maybe he has a career as a tight end. We'll find out. And I have Keas, the K from the Bak Talk Brothers. What's up, Keas?
Hey, Dan. Long time no see. How you doing?
Oh, man, I'm happy to see you. I love the hat. It is fantastic. Everybody is cheering for a Chiefs three-peat. It's universal.
It could happen.
Even here in Vegas, actually, there's a lot of hype about the Raiders, but it is what it is. It is what it is. You got to do something. And today, it's over 110. So it's brutal out here. It's brutal out here. Perry is here. He's excited.
What's up, Perry?
A Rashid Rice rookie card. Nice.
Ooh. He's a beast.
No, this is a good comment from Hatter's House 710 here, because as both of Keys teams here, Keys is now a hardcore Lions fan, but he's Lions Chiefs Super Bowl. That would be fantastic.
That would be high scoring game.
It'd be fun, man. Yeah, it'd be a high scoring, fun game. We got a lot of stuff to go over today. I got a lot of topics I'm going to get over. I have coffee, even though it's 110 degrees outside. I'm going to drink coffee today because I'm just a crazy person. I'm a crazy dude.
Not wrong with coffee here and there.
Yeah, I know. I mean, why am I drinking coffee when it's literally like 1,000,000 degrees, like rubber melts outside? It is crazy. But yeah, I'm drinking coffee. You know what? I should have brought up the Pacifics, but it's just a crazy deal. First thing I want to go over is the Justin Jefferson contract. Massive deal. It's something like 110 million guaranteed, 4 years. I think it's 140 million. I should have brought the terms up before, but I'll start off here with Keaton here. Keaton, listen, man, what are your thoughts, Justin Jefferson getting that contract?
I mean, I think he deserves it. I mean, the type of wide receiver that he is, I mean, with his skill set and what he brings to the table to a team. Now, the only question is like the division that they're in, because I mean, you're in the division with the Lions, the Bears that are on the come up, the Packers are still there. So it's like you got your bag, which I think he deserves. But what type of situation are you going to be? I mean, you're not going to be in a playoff situation. So is he going to waste all his prime years? I mean, that's the kind of the question you have to ask if you're a Vikings fan or just any fan out there. So it's like I said, as much as I agree that he deserves the contract, which you can't mess with someone's money, but does he care about winning or does he just care about his bag? So, but he does deserve his contract though. So, much deserved. I think he's the best wide receiver in the game for sure.
I thought it was interesting that he's not in a winning situation. Keys, what are your thoughts? Justin Jefferson gets paid, and Keys says guaranteed to not win this year.
Yeah, I'll reserve some of those comments for when we get to your main event, Dan. But yeah, I'm bummed that he's not a Chief because he does some things well that the Chiefs could have used, but that was never going to happen. I know there's a bunch of Bengals fans out there heartbroken because Justin Jefferson was going to 100% join Jamar Chase with the Bengals. So, yeah, I mean, you got Jordan Addison, you have Justin Jefferson, you got TJ Hawkinson there. Kirk Cousins is gone, but Kirk Cousins was Alex Smith with the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Good enough to get you to the playoffs, good enough to get you a 9, 10, 11 win season each year. Not good enough to get you over the hump. So, changes were going to have to be made there anyway. And again, I'm going to stop right here because I don't want to get into, I don't want to steal from your main event, but we might have a little bit of a disagreement on the Vikings.
I'm looking forward to this. And what he's talking about in the main event, and by the way, the link to the videos in the description below, but Keaton did a video earlier this week where he tiered all 32 NFL teams. And by the way, just spoiler alert, Keith says that Keaton only got three teams right. So Keaton is ready to rip into this list. I'm not quite as hard, but we have some things that we're going to go over later on because I took a screenshot, and which by the way, Keaton, hopefully you're not offended because I put the link to your video below. So and then I encourage everybody to watch it. But I'm going to ruin it because we're going to put the whole 32 list up. He says you only got 3 right. I'm a little nicer, but we're gonna dive into this list because there's definitely some things that I found very, very interesting, and we're gonna get that in a little bit. But I want to go over some of these other things. And by the way, for those of you who don't know, like CeeDee Lamb's holding out. Jamar Chase wants that big contract. Remember, for those of you who don't remember, Jamar Chase was the number 1 receiver at LSU. Justin Jefferson was number 2. And Brandon Ayuk is also holding out right now. So I'm going to start here with Keys. Now, I'll CeeDee Lamb, Jamar Chase, and Brandon Ayuk. Which one of these guys are going to get paid? Is there a holdout? Is there a trade? I mean, what are your thoughts?
I mean, first off, tis the season, right? Like especially with veteran players, this is just this whole part until you get to preseason, it's like they don't really want to be, partaking of that. But, I think the person with the least amount of leverage is Brandon Ayuk because the 49ers have such a bevy of weapons, right? And the writing's probably on the wall a little bit. You pay Christian McCaffrey, what used to be number 1 wide receiver money, maybe it's number 2 wide receiver money now, in his new AAV, so, but yeah, I mean, if I were the 49ers, I would keep him over Debo just based off of, some of the things I think he brings that Debo doesn't bring. But I would probably say CeeDee Lamb. And if you're a Bengals fan, you would probably have to say that too, because you believe that Joe Burrow is actually a top 2 quarterback.
Not a system quarterback.
Not a system cornerback. Yeah. Yeah. We'll all just pretend that, we didn't see Browning just basically step right into that offense. But yeah. So, I'll go with CeeDee Lamb because I think that Dallas offense has lost enough weapons, and I'm not a huge believer in Dak or Mike McCarthy. So,
I agree with that.
All right, Keaton. Listen, Lamb, Chase, and Ayok, man. What are your thoughts here? Which one of these guys is going to get paid? And is there a possibility one of these guys is traded?
No, it's funny because I'm hearing a lot of stuff about my team potentially getting. I'm not buying it until I actually see it. I know Patriots have been in rumor to get Brent Ayuk in the past, but it would be nice for us to get him. He would definitely change our offense significantly. But I think Brent Ayuk probably would be the main one to get traded out of all those other guys. Obviously, I think out of him and CeeDee Lamb, he said, and I think probably CeeDee Lamb probably would get his money just because of what Dallas didn't really do this offseason. They've had a pretty quiet offseason. They didn't really make any big time moves outside of
Ezekiel Elliott's coming back. That's not a big move.
Was it?
Ezekiel Elliott's coming back. He's 74 years old, but I mean that's not a big move. All right.
Yeah.
Zeke was washed up when he
in the red zone,
Dallas.
Get red zone back. They could use him down there, but short situation.
Yeah, Perry has some great questions here. This one's targeted at Keaton. What are your thoughts on Drake May and OTAs?
So far, from what I've looked or from what I've seen, he's looked pretty good. And the way he's throwing the football, he's thrown with a lot of confidence. He's not like Mac Jones, where his mechanics are just all out of whack. The only question that I have is, like I said, there's people saying that he may start the season or he might sit. I think the smart thing to do is just let him learn behind a guy like Jacoby Brissett, a guy that's been there, true vet, knows the system. Just let him sit for a little bit, and then whether if he'll start after the bye, our bye week's in week 14, so whether if he starts then or if he sits the whole year, I think that's probably a better situation than just throwing him out there from the start like they did to Mac Jones. So,
no, I agree completely. I hope that's kind of what they do, but we'll see. We'll see what goes on. Keys. We'll start with Keys on this one. Perry has another great question. Do you think Lamb is worth a big? I think he means bigger contract than Jefferson.
For me, that's going to be a no.
All right,
I just don't think so.
Lamb is no.
I think he means bigger contract. No. I don't think he's worth it. I don't know when this deal is going to get done, but out of the three receivers, Lamb, Chase, and Ayuk, I think Lamb will be signed, and I think he'll sign for a little less than Jefferson. I think it'll happen before the season. Ayuk, I've seen rumors from New England, but you drafted Ricky Purcell out of Florida in the first round. You got Deebo Samuel, who's had some injury issues and stuff, and I think you can get more for Ayuk. So I mean, I think New England would be a nice place. There's after giving McCaffrey that extension, and you're gearing up. They're apparently sold on Brock Purdy. Whether you think that's another discussion another day. But I don't think Lamb will get this. I think Lamb will sign. I think it's going to sign relatively soon, but I don't think he'll get as much as Justin Jefferson. Dan and Keys, what are your thoughts on Kansas City OTAs so far? Keys, Chiefs OTAs, what are your thoughts?
I mean, there's not a lot for me to think anymore. Every year, a lot of Chiefs fans kind of attach themselves to a undrafted or, low round wide receiver who stands out in OTAs. It happens every year. OTAs, training camp, like you get all this buzz and you jump on the hype train, and then the guy just like enters the witness protection program. So I'm kind of at the point where the only thing I look for in OTAs, and again, part of it's just that Kansas City, coming off of back-to-back Super Bowl wins, and 4 appearances in 5 years, it's like refinement, right? So to me, like the biggest thing is no big injuries. That's it. No big injuries. Second to that would be no idiots getting arrested. And, so I'll leave it at that.
No, you hit on a good thing. No idiots getting arrested. I don't know if you saw the Xavier Worthy TikTok video or not, but that was kind of cringeworthy if you haven't seen it. you don't want to see it. It's not good. And then he also got his car stolen too. So
I didn't hear about that.
Yeah, he got his car stolen, and he had the world's dumbest TikTok video with. I'm gonna be polite here. I'm gonna call it his girlfriend, but
I don't know.
I think we all know. I think all right. Let's get away from that. But I'm gonna switch gears a little bit because the one thing that stood out to me about Chiefs OTA is Patrick Mahomes was there, but Lamar Jackson's not at OTAs after signing that big deal in Baltimore. And I'm gonna start off here with Keys. I kind of ruined it by giving my opinion already. Patrick Mahomes is at OTAs, Lamar Jackson's not. But is this a big deal that he's hanging out in Florida and with mom and eating PB&J or whatever?
I don't think it is. I think it could be for a lot of players. If I was a Ravens fan, would I want him there? Yeah, absolutely. But I don't know. I heard, Shaq give an interview about, how he didn't really give it his all at practice, and I'm kind of applying this to OTAs, and Shaq's justification was like, all the guys in there were going to try to, draw the eyes on them by taking extra swipes at Shaq in practice. Any little thing they could do to get their little highlight moment against Shaq in practice, and that's how you get hurt. So that was kind of his thing, and I'm gonna go ahead and apply it to Lamar and a few select other players. It's just like I don't think he needs to really. I don't think he needs to be there. Most players, I'm going to say yes, but I don't think he does.
All right. Hey, Keaton, is this a much ado about nothing? Lamar Jackson hanging out in Florida and not being at OTAs.
I don't think it's that much of a big deal. I mean, like I said, Lamar Jackson, he's him. He's an MVP candidate. I mean, he probably doesn't want to obviously put himself at risk by going there and potentially getting injured. So, I mean, it's not a big deal, in my opinion.
I mean, golf was at OTAs, Mahomes is at OTAs, but Lamar Jackson, after getting all that money and.
I mean, it is. I mean, if you say it's a big deal in terms of like the guys that got in the draft, the new guys, if they're trying to get them involved, I mean, it would be nice to have him there. But like I said, I mean, he made a decision not to be there, so I don't think it's that much of a worry.
Well, hopefully, if you're a Baltimore Ravens fan, because they did have some roster turnover on the defensive side of the ball, so hopefully it's not that big of a deal. It's just that here's my thought process. Mahomes is there, Goff's there. You held out last year because you wanted the contract. You get the contract, and then you're still not there. I think it could potentially rub some veterans the wrong way, but we'll see what happens. Baltimore's a pretty solid organization. Speaking of quarterbacks, Tua, and by the way, Perry, this is a great question. I'm going to get to this here in just a second, but Tua's contract is up. That's been kind of a big story around the NFL here. Tyreek Hill has an extension. Jalen Waddle was signed. The rumor mill that I saw on social media was that Tua is going to get a contract before the season starts. It's going to be a big one. That Twitter rumor mill. So who knows? Keaton, what are your thoughts here? They signed both the receivers to big money. Tua isn't signed yet. The rumor is that he's going to be signed this offseason. What are your thoughts? Are they going to sign him, play hardball? I mean,
that's a tough situation. See, this has been going on for months now in terms of whether if he's going to get his bag or not. That's tough, man. I don't know. Now, there's a question. I mean, I don't know if you guys have seen Tua's weight loss, but he looks lost like 15, 20 pounds or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's like you have to, as an organization, you really have to. What is it that you want? Do you think that Tua is going to be able to get you over the hump? That has to be the question. And then with the weight loss, are you worried about him taking a big hit? If you give him all that money and he gets injured, like that can come back to bite you. So I mean, I don't think he's worth the money. I've been saying that for a minute now. I don't think he's worth all that money. I know Dolphins fans probably won't agree with that, but I'm just looking at just what are you going to get? Is he going to get you to the AFC title game or a Super Bowl? I mean, on paper they look good, but Tua has showed time and time again that he doesn't be able to get it done in big games. So I don't think he's worth it.
That's an interesting opinion, Keys. According to Keaton, they should trade Tua for a 7th round pick here. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, that sounds about right. No, like if your options are trade him for a 7th round pick or give him a huge contract, that's 100% dead on. Take the 7th round pick and be happy that you are not committing yourself to a huge mistake, right? That's called sunk cost fallacy. Tua's not the answer. You don't want to Daniel Jones, Derek Carr, Tua, right? Like Tua's not a bad quarterback. He might even be above average. Like personally, because I'm a little bit lower on Dak than a lot of people, I'd put him kind of close in that tier there. I wouldn't pay him though. Like I personally would not pay him. I have friends who are Dolphins fans who love Tua. Like they are buying what Tyreek Hill is smoking and saying, about how great of a quarterback Tua is. If it was me, I go another year because I think they're going to change their tune. Like you're running out of excuses for Tua. Like you're just running out of them. And I think that they would regret it. I could be wrong. We could all be wrong because I think we're all in kind of consensus on this, but
I was
from what I've seen.
I expected one of you guys to be like, no, they're going to give him his money. He's got weapons, but I mean, this is year 5, if I did my math right. And this is the first year he's played all 17, and he wants to drop some weight. And there's problems with the Dolphins lost some offensive lineman starters in free agency. Armstead's threatening retirement. I mean, I wouldn't sign him either. And Perry says if they sign Tua to a big contract, I expected one of you guys to stick up for him. I thought one of you guys would, and yeah, we're all in consensus. This is the Dolphins.
I could see them doing it though, right? Because
I think they're going to sign.
Yeah. I mean, Kyle Shanahan, Mike McDaniel, you got that same treat, to where they're fine with, and they believe they can win without outstanding quarterback play,
See, like, I'll throw this out there too. Like going back to the weight loss between Tua and Lamar, like between those two, like I'm more worried about Tua because he's already taken a lot of hits. He's already been out with concussions, and like Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, you remember us talking about he may have to retire because that concussion, like he was in concussion protocol for something like 8 months or something crazy, and you lose starters. Their left tackle Tron Armstead, they signed him to a big deal. He was threatening retirement. He's like, well, I might come back for one more year. I don't want to hear a starter, a key starter going, yeah, I'm probably going to retire next year. And I was debating if I wanted to play this year.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're debating, like your mind's already halfway checked out.
Yeah. They did draft one of my crushes, Patrick Paul, in the 2nd round. And he's a guy that will be a starting left tackle in 2025. But I mean, let's do this here. Perry has another great. Is there a trade market for Brandon Ayuk? What the 49ers could really get for value? I'm going to start here because I think there definitely is a trade value, but I don't know. I don't know if you really want to give up a number one. I will say this: I've been looking at drafts, and I'm going to get into that a little later. But this isn't like last year or this year's draft. It's a defensive heavy draft. There are some good receivers, but it's not like this year where you got 10 to 15 guys that could end up starting for you. Keys, man, what are your thoughts here on Perry's great question?
Yeah, definitely. There's way too much smoke with this one. I wouldn't do it if I was the 49ers, but there's way too much, smoke, whether it's the Steelers or or whoever. As far as what you could get for him, to me, I think for Devontae Adams and Tyreek Hill were special cases, right? Because Devontae is such a good route runner and receiver, and it's not that Ayuk isn't, those things, and obviously, most nobody has Tyreek Hill speed, right? And that's kind of they both kind of have a special ability above, the great receivers, to where, to me, it's like you look at what the Chiefs got for Tyreek Hill, and you go backwards from there, right? I think that's kind of, you're not quite getting there in my mind. Like, you're not getting that same value, but that's kind of the starting point for negotiations for paying a top receiver who, the acquiring team is going to have to pay top wide receiver money.
Well, let me ask you this here. Can you get a first round pick for Brandon Ayuk?
It depends on who has it. I think it depends on who has that draft capital. I mean, that's in my opinion. I mean, look at a team like New England that has all those draft picks. I mean, they could do it, but like, I don't see realistically, I don't see that happening. Like, knowing our front office people that just won't do it, but maybe they will. But
I don't see a first. I don't see a first round pick for Brandon Ayuk. But like, if you're a team and you maybe a third and a conditional fifth or something, it may be worth it depending on the team. But I mean, I don't see a first. But look, you got all that other talent. You draft a receiver in the first round. I mean, I do. I think Brandon Ayuk is going to get traded, but I don't think the Niners are going to get a first. So
yeah, and I was talking about Tyreek, but one big difference in there is Tyreek was traded ahead of the draft. We're like post-draft now, right? So there's some post-draft clarity there, to where you don't have to worry about this draft pick, for another 10 months or so. GMs don't necessarily have that huge crush. They've invested all the time scouting these guys, and you fall in love with the guy. So you definitely don't want to give the pickup. You don't have that this year. You kind of have, it's like putting it on a credit card. You don't have to worry about the bill coming due until next April. So if there was one factor in it, I think that would be it. It doesn't mentally, even though the value, is like that. It's like, if you're making a trade, right? If you include next year's first, the whole adage is, you decrease the value of it. So it's basically the same value as this year's second, right? And you could kind of go that route, I think, and that would be where I could see it happening. But, I still think, it's not Tyreek Hill, right, where you have that insane speed. It's just not Devontae or to me, Justin Jefferson. And I'm not knocking him. He's an amazing receiver. Just to me, I wouldn't go there.
No, I mean, and before the draft, this year was loaded with receivers. Next year's draft is not, and I'll get into next year's draft here in a little bit, but I think the best value might be after this year if he does the same thing that he did last year. But I think that, they're not going to get good value here. Funk says, "What's good, you all?" And Goff leads the picks in OTAs, reporting to Lions fans that the defense is getting better. Meanwhile, Hooker throws one pick, and fans, I hate my babies. Fans need. I loved Hendon Hooker coming out of Tennessee, and Funk says, "I've always been worried about Tua taking hits. Dude has taken some serious hits already. He came into the league after getting up. He got hurt in college. First 4 years in the league, got hurt every single year. This year, he played a whole season. He might have frostbite still from that Chiefs game, but I agree completely, Funk. I was really surprised. I was really surprised that all of us all said we wouldn't pay Tua. I really thought somebody was going to say that, hey, let's not do that. But
yeah.
I'm not sure if they can or not. I think the Dolphins are pretty sold on Tua, which I think is a mistake, and we'll find out here. I'm going to get into this here in just a second. I'm going to read these comments. I'm going to show Keaton's list here, and just a spoiler alert: he's not super high on the Dolphins. So he goes, team looks good in gym shorts. Yeah, and by the way, it's funny because Chiefs Kingdom was going nuts over Xavier Worthy, and I'm like, the dude's my weight the same weight as me. He should look good in shorts. And then he had a drop, which went nuts, and it's like, really? Come on. Yeah. Team, I don't pay attention to any of this. Somebody posted something on social media about Keon Coleman, the Bills' second round draft pick number 33 in the draft. Oh, he looks great in shorts. Look at him. He's going to be the Bills' number one wide receiver. It's just shorts. It's just short. I didn't respond to this guy because clearly he's never watched football before. So, yeah. Is Brandon? It's kind of funny because sometimes you have a buyer's market and sometimes you have a seller's market. And, to be honest with you, I think he would be worth a second. But I think you're going to get maybe a fourth. Keaton, what are your thoughts here? Is Brandon Ayuk, let's say he gets traded, like what's going to be the pick?
I would probably say, honestly, it's not going to be a first rounder, obviously. I would say at the highest, it probably would be a second or third for him.
Keys, what are your thoughts, man? You think third, fourth, fifth?
No, I'm right there. I'm right there with Keaton. I think second or third, somewhere around there.
Funk says Brandon and Casey could work. You all got to play. Actually, Rice. As of right now, there's no. He's not on the exception list. He's not even due to miss any games as of now. So, but I'll be honest. I wouldn't mind Ayuk in Kansas City, but.
Need receivers that can catch the ball.
I mean, we spent a first round pick on a wide receiver. I think the wrong Texas receiver, but I won't go on there. Keaton, did Polka have a good OTA?
He did. I'm really excited for the season to see how he does for offense. I think because he can separate like crazy. He's fast and he can catch the ball. That's exactly what the Patriots need. As we struggled last year miserably at that position in terms of wide receivers being inability to separate. So he had a solid OTA. I'm excited to see what he does during the season.
If Rice doesn't miss it, hey Funk, listen, I'm with you, but the way I understand it, and I think Keys might have a little more information than I do. I'll go to him right after I interject here. As of right now, he's not going to miss any. I think he will once the process is over with, but I think the games missed will be in 2025. That's the way I understand it. Keys, do you have any other information regarding this?
No, that's how I understand it as well. Is they're going to let the legal process, play out, which could make it not until 2025. But that's what the experts are saying, right? Like that's what we're hearing. Goodell has said, that's what we're hearing from the criminal lawyers in Chiefs Kingdom. Now, I'm still hesitant about that because the way Goodell has seemed to operate during the Patrick Mahomes era is to suspend our players during our toughest stretch of the season. So that's what I'm actually looking for.
Yeah. The way I understand it, Funk, is that they're going to let the legal process play out, but he will miss some games. I'm not. I feel like I'm condoning his behavior, and I'm not. I'm very upset about it.
Yeah, I would.
I mean, I'm not happy at all about it. And then I'm not sure if you saw the Xavier Worthy TikTok video, made me super cringe. Yeah, I'm worried, but we'll find out. We'll find out what happens. It's something we're going to pay attention to because he could get suspended mid-season. So we'll find out. Keaton made a video where he broke down the 32 NFL teams. He put them in tiers. Key says he only got 3 right. I'm going to ruin it because I'm going to put the screenshot here on it. And I'm kind of curious how our faces are going to add up here when I do this. Now, first thing you're going to notice here on this is that there's 33 teams, not 32, because Keaton thinks Ohio State can win 12 games in the NFL.
That's funny.
So that's first thing. Let's knock this out. Keaton, can Ohio State really win 12 games in the NFL? Come on, Keaton.
They can. They can.
By the way, if you're not, I've been looking over big boards, and Alabama set the record a couple years ago with 7 players drafted in the first round. Ohio State's going to have anywhere between 4 and 8. This could be the year Ohio State breaks it because even if they don't win the national championship, they could still have 8 guys go in the first round. That's not including both their running backs who are going to be NFL players. Both probably NFL starters, and neither one of those guys are going to probably not be drafted in the first round. Now, Henderson ran a 10.3 in college, and he's put on some weight, just like J.K. Dobbins did. And of course, J.K. Dobbins now with the Chargers, who can't stay healthy very good when he is. But if Henderson goes to the combine at 215, 220 and runs like a 4.2 anything, like he could go in the first round. And that may put Ohio State at 8 players. That team's loaded. But Funk says, Keaton, I'm going to need you to pee in this cup. And yeah, come on, Keaton. So according to Keaton, Ohio State is a NFL playoff team. So that's what we got here. Yeah, you are right. Cam Sutton did sign for a veteran minimum contract for the Steelers. I think a great move for the Steelers that drafted him. And, you know, that's who Dan turns to. That's a good one. All right, so let's dive into this, and we'll go bottom to top here. By the way, in case you didn't realize it, I put the Ohio State helmet on there as a joke, but I do want to emphasize that team is loaded, and I'm already looking at big boards. And speaking of big boards, first thing that stands out: 1 to 3 wins. I get Carolina. I get the Giants, but the Denver Broncos are no better than a 3-win team. Keys, we're both AFC West fans. You know, is this accurate here with Denver being a 1 to 3 win team?
Well, you know, first off, Dan, I want to set the record straight. You know, I thought you made a mistake by having me on, because I actually made it about 35 minutes through Keaton's video before I'm like, I disagree. I like had any kind of major disagreement with anything. But yeah, you know, Denver was one that mildly stood out. You know, I wouldn't die on that anthill, but I think Denver is definitely, well, I think that they're going to be in that 4 to 6 win tier myself.
Yeah, I'm a little higher on Denver, but Keaton, this is your video. This is your I don't want to put words in your mouth here, but I mean, and by the way, the link to Keaton's video is below. I encourage you to watch it. Keaton, let me ask you this here. I mean, you really see the Denver Broncos? You obviously do. They're really no better than a 3-win team.
I mean, like I said, I just don't think. Like I said, I like Bo Nix. I think that was they obviously needed a quarterback. Jarrett Stidham is there at quarterback as well. Zach Wilson's there, I believe, right?
Yeah.
He's there. Which, I mean, he might be the starter. I mean, who knows? I don't know what that situation is there, but like, I'm just not high on just the overall talent with the team, and then just with Sean Payton as well. I just don't think he's the right, my opinion, just the right coach for that team. I'm just looking at the timeline. Like I said in my video, I think having a rebuilding team and having a Sean Payton coach who's been successful throughout his career so far. I just don't think he is going to be able to turn this around. And then, like I said, the division that they're in as well. Like, I mean, just go look at the Broncos' schedule. Like, what type of wins are you going to be able to see on there? I don't know if you guys looked at their schedule yet, but it's not easy. They have a lot of hard games, and then, like I said, the division that they're in, I don't think they're better than the Chargers or the Raiders or the Chiefs, obviously. So that's just me. I mean, they could be higher, but I'm just saying I'm just not that optimistic about them.
I love it. I love it. And I got a follow-up question here, and I'll hit you, Keaton here first. I've been looking at big boards already, and I think when everything's said and done, Shadir Sanders is going to be the number 1 pick in the draft. Okay, I think Shadir Sanders he's not the number 1 rated prospect. All right, quarterbacks always get bumped up. I think he's going to be the number 1 pick in the draft. He plays at the University of Colorado, which is right next. I think Boulder's actually. I think they play like almost inside. It's in the metropolitan area. Shadir Sanders, if you're the Denver Broncos and you're picking 1, 2, or 3, I think if they pick 1, 2, or 3, you're throwing in the towel. Like Bo Nix, he's not going to be the guy. Do you just move on and try to get Shadir Sanders?
Is this for my question, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
I mean, it's very long-winded, but
I mean, it depends on like it depends on like if they how like when Bo Nix starts, if he's goes in there and he doesn't perform or he doesn't show promise. I mean, I could see Denver going back in the draft and getting a guy like. I mean, how could you really pass up on a guy like him? So you just never know. But it just depends. Like I said, just kind of wait and see game with Bo Nix. We'll see how he progresses in his first year. So,
Keys, I'm gonna hit you up here, man, because I think me and you think Denver's a little better than a 1 to 3 win team. But let's just say they're in position to have pick 1, 2, or 3. Is there a chance Shadir Sanders would be the pick for the Denver Broncos?
Yeah, I'm gonna echo Keaton here, and I know that Jerry Jeudy was kind of you might call him a bust in Denver. Mm-hmm. And obviously I think if Sean Payton was okay with him leaving, that says a lot. But I'm going to go with Keaton here because, I think it depends on what Sean sees out of him, right? What the coaching staff sees out of Nix. Like, are they seeing things and not even at the beginning, but by the end of the season, are they seeing what they need to see out of him? And then it's whatever, if they enter that process, next off season, obviously, you have to do your due diligence because you have a top 1, 2, 3 pick, right? And then it becomes, what do you think of these guys? You interview him, you interview Sanders, you put them through the stuff and you weight the two, side by side. But I think it's kind of hard to say this early because we don't even know what Nix is going to be. And I, even OTAs don't really tell us, we're getting all these OTA questions, and, you were talking about Xavier Worthy dropping the ball and we're talking about these quarterbacks. And, I think what you want to see in OTAs is players making mistakes, right?
Yeah.
Not like
100%.
Not like, like cognitive mistakes, but just like mistakes because, they're experimenting, they're learning what they can get away with, right? Patrick Mahomes' first offseason, all the interceptions he threw. He was
he's Kingdom Mastermind. They're like, oh my God, we got rid of Alex Smith. Can we get him back? Mahomes threw 2 picks in OTA. Yeah, we heard a lot of that.
Jamar Chase, his rookie season, all kinds of drops, preseason games, all kinds of drops. Has he really had an issue with that? Right? Like these guys, like if you're afraid of failure, I get it. But these guys, if you have any chance of being a great NFL player, You have to not be afraid of failure, because that's where you grow and you learn the most. So, like, what is Nick's going to look like the next 8 months, right? Because you can grow so much. And if you're willing to fail and grow from it, you'll grow that much faster and that much stronger, that much better.
Well, I know Manning threw, I think it was 26 interceptions his rookie year, and the Colts didn't win a lot of games. But year 2, it was completely different. I should have looked up who they drafted. Was it Edgerrin James? I think it was. Year 1, Manning threw all those picks, and then year 2, Edgerrin James was the 4th overall pick. It was a surprise because they passed up Ricky Williams, who the Saints gave up their whole draft for. But I want to say this: if Denver wins, if Denver has a top 3 pick, I think they will draft Shadir Sanders and just throw Bo Nix away for a 5th or a 6th round pick. But I think they're going to be better than a 3-win team. So like they could be. I mean, you never know. One thing about Sean Payton, everybody thinks that he's this great guy with rookie quarterbacks. Drew Brees was in the NFL for 5 years. He went to a Pro Bowl with Marty Schottenheimer as his quarterback or as his head coach. So him turning Drew Brees into a Hall of Famer is different than him turning Bo Nix into a starter. It's night and day. But if Denver's terrible and they can draft Shadir Sanders, I 100% believe that they will.
Does Peyton stay for that, Dan? Because I know before Peyton ended, before he was in Denver, you were not big on Peyton, no. Sean Payton, like being the guy. You're like right there with Keaton, right? Like Sean Payton just took the money, was taking the Walmart money. So I'm just curious what you think about that.
I think that Bo Nix is probably the 4th or 5th quarterback that Denver wanted in the draft. And I think that they're just trying. I think Denver right now is, and this is part of the reason why Keaton has them as a 1 to 3 win team. I think Denver right now is a shit show. I mean, I think their best defensive player was Justin Simmons. He's gone. He hasn't been signed yet. And that's a guy I kind of expected to be signed immediately after June 1st for a week into June. He still hasn't been signed. He's going to sign with some team and really, really be a difference maker. I always like Justin Simmons, but yeah, I think that if this happens, I think Peyton will be all on board because Sean Payton and Dion have a good relationship from their days back in Dallas. I think that they have a good relationship. I think that Shadir Sanders will be able to step into an NFL team, maybe better than Bo Nix, but it all depends on how fast Bo Nix develops because, I think he's going to be the day 1 starter. I don't think that they're going to mess around with Stidham or Zach Wilson. I think they're just going to throw Bo Nix straight into the fire, and it's going to be sink or swim. And I think if he sinks, I think they're just going to get rid of him after 1 season. I don't think they're going to mess around. But keep in mind, if they pick in the top 5, I don't think that they're going to mortgage their whole draft to go the number 1, but if they're picking at 2 or 3, then they can do that. So before we go into this list any further, look at who we have in the chat. We have the great one, the talent, the B and the Bak Talk Brothers, Gooch.
What's going on?
Oh, God, it's always a good day when you have Gooch in the building here. Man, that is awesome. Over-under on Wilson beating out Nix. Over-under on Russell Wilson winning the starting job. Well, the way I understand it, Russell Wilson is the starter. There's no question about that. And then Wilson beating out Nix. I think the way I understand it, and I could be wrong, I think Zach Wilson's the third string guy behind Stidham, and I think Stidham's going to be the backup. That's my opinion. So
Really?
we're under.
Oh,
I would put low, like probably like negative 750, just because or a plus 750. I'm sorry, because I think Stidham's going to be the backup because he's semi-familiar with the system already.
Yeah.
Keys, what are your thoughts here? Zach Wilson, is there a chance that he becomes a starter there in Denver? He's got talent. I mean,
listen, I think that if he became a serviceable starter, I think you give Sean Payton Coach of the Year. Like you could give it to Nathaniel Hackett for one game last year when the Jets played the Chiefs and Zach Wilson looked like a legitimate NFL starter. So he's shown flashes of it, like in that game, right? Like if you go back and you watch that Chiefs versus Jets game, and I haven't, went back to watch to see what Spags was doing, what the defense was doing there, but that was a good Zach Wilson game. So it's possible.
Yeah, Keaton. Keaton, what are your thoughts here on? I'm sorry, I went away from it here. Let me put this up here. Zach Wilson beating out Russell Wilson here. Is there a possibility here? Because I mean, he did show flashes. He has talent. I mean, there's talent there, but what are your thoughts?
I mean, it's definitely. I mean, it's not out of the question that he could beat him out. I mean, like I said, Wilson has. I mean, out of Stidham and who's the other one? Yeah, Knicks. Yeah. Out of those two, obviously, he has the experience in terms of he can go out and be productive if depending on the day. I mean, there's some days where he doesn't look like an NFL starting quarterback. There's some games where he does. So, but like you said, I think Bo Nix, just looking at him, and you drafted him at 12, which a lot of people think that's a reach and stuff like that. But I mean, if you draft him that high, I think you have to just put him in there. And see, I mean, you don't really, I mean, you're not expected to do much anyway this year. So why not see what you got in Bo Nix? And then if it doesn't work, then you can move on to Stidham or Zach Wilson there, so who's sitting behind them. So
I'll be honest. I'm not even 100% sure Zach Wilson is on the Broncos for day one, because if he's the third string quarterback, you may have to cut him to make a roster move. And if you're comfortable enough with Stidham, there's a lot of stories in preseason I'm looking forward to. I'm actually curious if Zach Wilson even makes the team. Funk says Drew the Boilermaker. Yeah, I actually watched him in Purdue, and I always was impressed. And I always said the same thing too. I was like, God, if he was 6'2", he'd be a number one pick in the draft. And remember, the Chargers had the number one pick. They traded with Atlanta, so Atlanta drafted Vic. The Chargers ended up with Tomlinson and Drew Brees. That worked pretty good for the Chargers. One of the few things the Chargers front office got right in the history of their organization. Funk has an interesting thing that says Simmons to the Raiders could be interesting. They got the money. Keys gave the correct response of "you shut your mouth." By the way, I would hate Simmons. Simmons needs to be in the NFC somewhere.
Cardinals. Cardinals is a good spot.
Cardinal. I was going to say Bears because they lost.
No, I mean to hide them from the playoffs. So Cardinals.
Hide them from the playoffs. Speaking of hiding from the playoffs and the Cardinals, the 4-6 wins here. We have the Cardinals, the Vikings, the Titans, and the Commanders. Keys, you said earlier that Keaton only got 3 teams right. Did he get any of these right?
Yeah. So I'm kind of iffy on if Washington makes it into the 4-6. And I agree with Keaton. If the Giants stay in that 1-3, Dable's gone, but it's hard for me to think they're going to because of Dable. So I would probably swap Washington and the Giants. And I'm also bumping the Vikings up to that next tier. I can't have them at 4-6. Kevin O'Connell is a good head coach, good offensive play caller. They still have Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, and TJ Hawkinson, in that offense. And you're now what, year 2 in the Brian Flores defense? So he's at the point now where he can actually be building his defense instead of having to cater his defense to his, the player's strength. So, I get the division argument. I'm not going to argue against that. I get the quarterback argument. I just think that Kevin O'Connell is good enough. The offensive pieces are good enough. And Brian Flores on the defensive side is good enough that it's hard for me to see, even losing, Kirk Cousins, to see that big of a drop off.
Keaton, what were your thoughts here? As Keith said, your entire list is wrong.
I mean, he makes a good point. I mean, I think the defense is going to be, and that's the thing. I didn't mention that in my video, but their defense is going to their best.
Now they did lose their best. They did
lose Hunter. Yeah.
They did, yeah.
He was their best. Well, I think he was their best player. You could have argued Harrison Smith a few years ago, but Harrison Smith, I think to start the year will be 33 or 34. I should have known that, but
Flores doesn't need Hunter though. Like, when you look at what he did in Miami, he had, guys like Emmanuel Ogbah and just like, I don't want to say scrubs, but they were,
Andrew Van Ginkel, who's in Minnesota.
Yeah. Ginkel.
Did he go to Minnesota?
Yeah,
that's a huge loss for.
Yeah, they it's funny.
The Dolphins,
in Minnesota basically flipped defensive ends. Greenard, who led the Texans in sacks, is now in Minnesota, and then Hunter, who led Minnesota in sacks, I want to say 16 and a half. He's now in Houston, and we'll talk about Houston later because I thought it was interesting where Houston is on Keaton's list, but it's funny because. You mentioned the Giants and Washington being flipped. I think my favorite to have the worst record in football is the Tennessee Titans, which just to me just looks like a complete disaster. Nothing seems to look right. Yeah, I really do.
Wow.
Because
games last year.
Well, here's the deal. Okay, the offensive coordinator from the Bengals is taking over as head coach. He's never been a head coach before. He's bringing his dad, who's a world-renowned, famous offensive line coach, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so and great offensive line. I get that. The Bengals the last couple of years, I wasn't impressed with their offensive line. I didn't look at the Bengals offensive line and go, oh, wow, this is a great unit. Joe Burrow's safe. I mean, me and Keys have both kind of questioned the Bengals like, man, they need some help on that offensive line. And great offensive line coach, great history. Sometimes, coaches get a little caught up in the past and, so
he's not the GM though, I'll just say this: you can only do so much to turn chicken, into chicken salad. And
but I mean, your left tackle's played right tackle in college. That's got to work. And he's a big dude, right? He's like, what, 360, 350, something like that. J.C. Latham, the Alabama tackle. I'm drawing a blank on how big he is, but you're running that offense in Cincinnati, quick rhythm passing offense, which you can throw anybody in there. But that's not Levis's strength. His strength is a vertical passing attack. Now, don't say anything bad about Will Levis, the Denver Gator. He loves that guy. Denver Gator actually started putting mayonnaise in his coffee, which I'm drinking coffee. That's the most disgusting thing ever. Why, Will? Why are you doing this? You're nuts. It's just crazy. But the Titans are my favorite to have number one pick in the draft. I think they're going to be terrible this year.
That's wow.
Yeah, they're. I do think that I'm curious about Carolina, and I'm curious about. I think Denver's going to be better, and the Giants' front seven could be really, really good. But I've never been sold on Daniel Jones. Perry says the Vikings have good coaches. If the Vikings head coach can get JJ to a solid starter day one, the Vikings could be a surprise team in the NFC North. I agree completely. Keaton, what are your thoughts here? Because on your list here, you have the Vikings as a 4-6 win team.
Vikings do have good coaches. The Vikings, yeah. I mean, like I just commented I just put my comment down below.
Okay.
To Perry, I agree. Like that's a good comment there. If McCarthy, like I said, what he did at Michigan, he obviously didn't have to be asked to throw the ball a whole bunch at Michigan, just given the overall talent on that roster at Michigan there. If he just comes in, just plays, like just takes care of the football, doesn't put the ball in harm's way. Obviously, you still have Jefferson, Addison to work with on that side. So if he just plays clean and just makes a simple play, and I mean, I can see Minnesota surprising. On top of, like I said, what they did in the draft, I think their defense will be competitive with getting Dallas Turner there. I think, like I said, he's a beast at his side. So yeah, I think they'll be a competitive team. So
you end up with a team, and I'm not saying McCarthy is going to be Joe Burrow, but if you look at the Vikings for McCarthy and you look at the Bengals that Joe Burrow had year two, after he got injured, right? And then they got Jamar Chase. Like, if you look at what the Bengals built year two, year three, and you look at, the similarities there, Zach Taylor, Kevin O'Connell, same system, right? Lou Anarumo, Brian Flores building great defenses that, if you want to argue, Addison, number two, some might say number one, two really great wide receivers there, building it. You can see some kind of similarities there where it's definitely going to take the pressure off of him having to run that offense, I think, in Minnesota.
Yeah, the one thing is I love their head coach, but the general manager, the whole point of them getting back into the first round and getting the 23rd pick was that they really wanted Drake May. And the offensive coordinator, I'm drawing a blank on his name, but I want to say it's Cade McNown for the Vikings. He coached Drake May in high school, and they were kind of thinking that, hey, let's be clear, J.J. McCarthy was the consolation prize. They really wanted Drake May, and the Patriots are like, we don't care. We'll we did that in the past where we traded down, got 2 draft picks in the first round, but we're not going to do that this year because we like May better than McCarthy. I think that the Minnesota general manager, and I'm drawing a blank on who he is, he's from Cleveland, has just made over the last couple of years some really weird decisions in the draft. And the whole thing of trying to get 2 first-round draft picks so you can get Drake May, which I 100% believe was the plan, failed in McCarthy. I have a hard time thinking that you can build a team around a quarterback who relied on his running backs in college. I just have such a hard time believing that's going to work. So, but I don't have too much of an argument with the Vikings being a 4-6 win team, even though I agree with everything that Keys said. And I love Brian Flores, and that defense is a lot of fun to watch, but I'm not. I've said this publicly. I'm not a McCarthy guy, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, like I said, I'm not going to die on these hills right now. So
no, me neither.
These particular ones, it's just that one's those ones were kind of just some small disagreements. Like I said, I think 35 minutes in before I was finally like, okay, Dan might be happy because I might disagree a little bit.
Well, he came. I know he came from Cleveland, and he just made some really weird trades in the draft and in free agency, and I'm not really sold on him. And Dallas Turner's excellent value. I think they picked him at 18th, 16th, something like that.
17, I think. Yeah,
you're banking on him to take to take over for a guy at 16 and a half sacks last year. So, yeah. Perry asked a good question. Do you think Kingsbury can develop Daniels like he did with Murray? It's Jaden Daniels, the Heisman Trophy winner at LSU, because I don't think it's been official. Like the Bears officially named Caleb Williams the starter. I don't think Jaden Daniels, I could be wrong on this. I don't think he's been officially named a starter for the Washington Commanders. Keys, can Kingsbury do the same magic in Washington they did with Arizona? Well, that's what Perry asked.
Yeah, have we really seen a fully developed Kyler Murray, though? That would be my question. What quarterback have we seen come from Cliff Kingsbury's coaching who has been fully developed? Like even Patrick Mahomes needed some things coached out of him by Andy Reid. And I don't think we've even seen that fully from Kyler. So, I mean, I don't know.
Keaton, what are your thoughts? Jaden Daniels and Perry asked, do you think Kingsbury can develop Daniels like he did with Kyler Murray?
I mean, I think Cliff Kingsbury is the right coach for Jaden Daniels. Like Jaden Daniels is a guy, obviously, he likes to use his legs a lot. The only concern I have with Daniels is he struggles to throw the ball in the middle of the field. He loves throwing on the sidelines. Now he's got to learn how to throw the ball in the middle of the field. I think that will come with time. Obviously, I think Cliff Kingsbury, knowing what he does, what he brings to the table, I think he can definitely help Jaden Daniels out in his first year. Now, obviously, there's going to be growing pains in there, like there is for any rookie. So, but I think he's definitely the right coach that will steer him in the right direction.
Yeah, the thing is with Washington is that they got holes in their offensive line. And I remember Jaden Daniels. Yeah, they got some problems on the offensive line. That was the one thing they didn't fix. I love what they did defensively. I kind of like the weapons on offense. The offensive line's not good. And I don't care what he weighed at. I remember when he was at Arizona State, they listed him at 175. I'm telling you right now, he was closer to 150. I mean, the dude was string bean. I mean, the dude, I don't care what he weighed at the combine. I don't think he played. And by the way, I mean, he played in the SEC, but I don't think he was, I don't think he hit 200 pounds. And you got a bad offensive. Look at what you got in the NFC East too. You got, now we're 7 in. I'm having to. Okay. Yeah. Micah Parsons. That's the name I was trying to think of. We got Micah Parsons. You got Philly, that defense, right? And then the Giants added Brian Burns.
See, and that's the thing too. Like, that's the reason why I have Washington that 4-6 win range. It's not just because I think the talent is there. I think the potential is there. Like I said, the offensive line. Like if Daniels doesn't get the protection, it could be a long year for them. And it's like I said, it's a division thrown too. So
Keaton thinks that they're closer to one. Or I'm sorry. Keys thinks that they're closer to 1-3 win range here. But it's a Kiwi Alpha Mosa KAM. Keys. Yeah, I seriously think if the Vikings are a 4-6 win team, I think they'll keep Kevin O'Connell. I think they'll get rid of KAM. I'll call him KAM. Cam. Can I do that? I think Queasy. Isn't that George Jefferson's wife? Keaton has no idea who I'm talking about. Denver.
What up? Going on?
Yeah, I seriously, I really do. I think with the contract, if he doesn't, I seriously think that the Minnesota GM's on the hot seat. Some of those questionable trades, but we'll find out. If McCarthy plays well, we'll find out. Let's go to the 7-9 win tier here, and this is obviously the biggest one. There's 10 teams here. Keys. You said earlier that Keaton only got 3 teams right, and so far you I think the Panthers are the only one you like here. So you hate everything on this list.
All right, so 7 and 9, yeah, there's a few more disagreements on here. You know, I'm not as high on the Bears. You know, as you know, I'm a big head coach quarterback combo here. You know, I'm not sold on Eberflus yet. All the rookie head coaches or play callers and all the rookie quarterbacks, like, to me, I'm not going to put them up higher, you know, simply because I got to see what they can do.
I agree.
You know, so for me, I would put the Bears in that 4 to 6. And it's not that they might not have the talent. It's more of, you know, how many times, right? Like, best case scenario is what? A CJ Stroud situation for Caleb Williams. You know, we don't normally see that from rookie quarterbacks. You know, like I said, I'm not sold on Eberflus. You know, the division is going to be hard. You know, the one thing they have for them is, you know, a loser's schedule. But to me, it's 4 to 6 win team until I see something differently, which could be halfway through the season, right? They might already have their 4 to 6 wins then. But for now, I would put them at 4 to 6. And the other two, you know, at first, because I wanted to say the Steelers, but, you know, then Keaton said, you know, right at that 9-win range, you know, which I, you know, stopped me from arguing with that one. But the other two that really kind of got me was Dolphins and Patriots. And part of it is like, it's almost, was it No, it was Vikings and Patriots. It was to me was kind of like the same argument. Like, the argument for why the Vikings would be 4 to 6 was dismissed for why the Patriots are going to be 7 and 9. And I think the Patriots are actually going to be in that 4 to 6 win range. You know, you go from top 2 or 3 head coach of all time, greatest defensive coordinator of all time. You know, the roster, yeah, there's some guys that were injured. You know, I think the offense is definitely going to be better. Wasn't a big Bill O'Brien fan, you know, so I get some of those. I just don't think that the Patriots, unless Aaron Rodgers gets hurt again, I don't think the Patriots are finishing above 4th place in the AFC East. And this could be the year, Dan, right? Because the last few years, I know we've been higher on the Patriots, right? So it could be like, you know, we could be George Costanza in this thing. And, you know, this could be the year where they finally do it. But to me, they're 4 to 6 wins this year. And the Dolphins should probably be in the 10 to 11 range. And the Jets should probably be in that 7 and 9, swapping with them. You know, you know, we all, Tua's limitations, offensive line limitations, the defense took some hits. You know, Fangio is gone, but it doesn't sound like things were gelling, you know, there anyway last year. You know, I think McDaniels is a good coach, and I know you're not sold on him yet, Dan. No. But I think they're building that offense, you know, to where it's going to be greater and greater. Tua's the limiting factor, so I won't argue strongly if you say the Dolphins are a 9-win team. Like, I'm not going to die, you know, I'm not going to die on these hills, most of these hills. I just think they probably get to 10, and they're probably the 2nd place team. And the Jets are probably the 3rd place team.
Okay. I want to read some comments, and then I want Keaton to retort here. Denver Gator hates your list, Keaton. You can tell here. You guys are my boys, but 1 to 3 wins with the Raiders at 7 and 9. You've got to be shitting me. Patriots at 7 and 9. This is a joke, right? Am I being punked? Denver Gator. It's actually a really good video. Do check it out here. This is Keaton's list. By the way, you missed it earlier, but he said Ohio State this year would put up 80 on Denver's defense. Easy.
True.
So Ohio State is an NFL playoff team. That's 100% on Keaton. These are some great comments. And Denver Gator, as a Denver Gator fan, belongs in the 7 to 9 range. That's what Perry asks. But Keaton, man, give you an opportunity. I'm going to talk a little bit about the 7 to 9 win, because one team stood out that Keys didn't mention. But defend your list a little bit. By the way, I love it. Keys says you only got 3 teams right, but I like it.
Oh yeah, I get what you're saying about the Dolphins. You think they should be higher than, like, they should be in that 10-11 win, and which they definitely could. I mean, look at last year with this Dolphins team. I believe it was like about 6 weeks to go until the end of the season. They had a good lead in the division before Buffalo started to come up, and then it came down to that last game of the regular season for the division. So it's like the Dolphins every year, it's like they have talent on paper. No one's questioning. I think Tyreek Hill and Jalen Wall are the most explosive wide receiver duo, in my opinion, in football. And I don't think anyone can argue with that. But it's like they start off hot every year, but then once the December month comes around, and that's where they really start to fall apart. In the last couple of years, they've done that. Look at their last 4 games of the year. They play, or that last 6 games actually. They play at Green Bay. They play the Jets, Texans, 49ers, Browns, and the Jets again. So I mean, that's a tough last 6 games of the season. And the Dolphins did lose 5 straight. I don't think it was last year, but I think it was the year before, where they lost like 5 straight in the year and they somehow got in the playoffs. So it's like, can this team actually, like, if they want to avoid that again, 2024, do you think they should get home field advantage to avoid having to go on the road? Because they also struggle against teams above 500 as well.
Yeah, I don't have too much of it. It stood out to me, but I mean, look, you lose Wilkins. Nobody wanted to see him as a Raider. That was just awful.
Yeah, that was terrible.
2 or 3 of your starters on your offensive line, and Perry has another great question here. Which rookie quarterback will have the most successful season? I have my answer. Keaton, I'm curious, are you going to get it right or not?
Which rookie quarterback has a successful season?
Well, the most successful.
Okay, yeah, I get it. Jeez. I think I don't know. If I had to guess, the way it's looking right now, I probably would have to say Caleb Williams, just because of the talent around him. Is that fair? I'm just looking at you have Roman Dunze, you have Keenan Allen, you have I think Swift from Philadelphia, right? The running back. I think he's in the best situation out of any rookie quarterback so far.
All right. Keys, which rookie quarterback will have the most successful season?
Yeah, that's a great question. I do think that there's a good chance it'll be Caleb Williams. As I already said, though, Vikings have a pretty good offensive situation there. So I mean, you can make a couple good arguments, right? I mean, even Denver with Sean Payton and the weapons that they had there, I think that for these rookie guys, there's a few situations that are pretty good. We're not talking about Panthers last year, right? So
no.
That's a positive. And the Falcons, we didn't even talk about that, but Kirk Cousins is the starter, unless he's not healthy. Kirk Cousins is the starter, so it's not really worth mentioning.
No, I think out of all the rookie quarterbacks, I think Jaden Daniels, just with the coaching staff and the weapons, I worry about that offensive line. But I think he's going to I mean, Caleb Williams, I think, has the most talent, but I also have some questions about their offensive line. But I remember that crying last year, and the pink fingernails, and Chicago's a tough sports town, man. You're going from LA to Chicago, and a team. I mean, I think Daniels, but Williams needs to toughen up. That's my.
I want to defend. Well, because I think Denver Gator was questioning the Patriots, but I want to defend it a little bit. So like, and Dan, I remember you mentioning this too. You think the Patriots are going to be improved next year. So go back to last year. Go back to last year where, like, yeah, I get we went 4-13 last year, but it's not like the Patriots got. I mean, yeah, we had a few blowout games, but most of their games were decided by 6 points or less. My point is, despite how bad the offense was last year, the defense, without Judon Gonzalez that were injured the whole year, we're still top 10 defense and one of the best defenses towards the end of last year. So my point is, the offense, I like what we did in the draft. Obviously, we didn't get a big-time free agent. I know we won 4 games last year. No big-time free agent is going to go to the Patriots right now until we actually prove that we are a good destination to come to. But I think the offense will be better than it was last year under Mac Jones. I think our quarterback room of Jacoby Brissett and Drake May, I know Drake May is probably not going to start right away, but Jacoby Myers knows the system. He's a vet, and I think he's going to, not saying he's going to be great, but it's going to be better than what it was last year. I like the Jalen Polk, the Javon Baker. He showed out in camp. I think he's going to be making it be an impactful player for our offense. So it's like, if our defense, I think, which I believe can be a top 5 unit in all football now with Judon and Gonzalez back on that side, if our offense can just be average or just somewhat better than it was last year, I mean, I'm not saying Patriots are going to win 9 games. I'm not saying Patriots. I just say they're going to be in that 7 to 9 win. I think 6-11, 7-10. I think that's. I don't think that's too crazy to say that.
No, I love their defense. Last year they had 2nd-round pick Keon White, who I just started falling in love with. I thought he's a guy. I think he was injured most of last year, but Christian Barmore, there's nothing but upside with him. He's just getting better and better each year. There's some surprises there with if this defense could be really good, but this needs to be a defensive first team. Denver Gator has Ohio State versus Georgia for the national championship. I mean, as of right now, that would be my pick. Ohio State. I joked around. I put that in there. Keaton didn't. Denver Gator. Hopefully you caught on to that. But yeah, I seriously. They're going to have a minimum of 4 first-round picks and a maximum of 8. I mean, that team's just loaded.
That's great.
So yeah, it's kind of funny, and I don't think that me and Keys both agree that we think Denver is going to be better than 3-win teams because Vance Joseph, after that 70-point debacle, changed some things in the defense. Defense started playing better. Nobody wants to talk about how they beat the Chiefs. That was disgusting. But yeah, I mean, the defense got better as the year went on. Losing Simmons is tough. So the NFC West will be a tough division to win. The 49ers will take a step back, and other teams have improved. My favorite to win the NFC West is the Rams, with Cards challenging.
That's a bold.
I like the Rams, and keep an eye on Trey Benson because he was a 3rd-round pick from the Cardinals, and he's a guy. He was my running back number 1.
Seattle. I'm surprised you didn't say Seattle. I think Seattle might. I mean,
I'm not. It's funny because you got Seattle in that 7-9 win range as well. I really like Pete Carroll. I think they made a mistake with Mike McDonald, but we'll find out here. I'm going to get to all these comments, but I'm going to throw out my 2 cents. The team that really surprised me on that 7-9 win, and we'll find out Keys' reaction because Keys didn't mention it, was the Browns. Deshaun Watson's going to be healthy. He's going to be there. The defense is still loaded. They number 1 in yards. I think they're 13th in points. I think the defense could maybe be better. And you got Deshaun Watson, you got Jerry Jeudy, Nick Chubb's coming back from injury. I mean, they're in the AFC North is loaded, but I think
that's the problem.
Yeah, that's a great argument. That team, and then I also thought it was interesting you had Miami taking a step back. But it's one thing that we agree upon, and I'll talk about this next with the 10 to 11, is that you have the Falcons in the 7 to 9 range, but you have the Bucks higher up, so you have the Bucks winning that NFC South. It looks like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because like I said, I never you mentioned the Falcons, their 8th pick. I still have questions about that pick. I know you do as well, but
Mm-hmm. Dolphins. Yeah, I Keys brings a great comment here. Nobody wanted to see Wilkins in silver and black. That's just disgusting. That is just awful. I've been actually listening to
better than Chris Jones.
Yeah, better than Chris Jones. I've been watching the Max Crosby YouTube channel podcast. It's pretty good, but yeah, they had some guys on and but yeah, Wilkins. Nobody wants to see Wilkins in the AFC West. That's just awful. And
yes.
Question is, if they gave Tua enough weapons to completely hide his limitations, that's a great question because OBJ is not the same dude.
I just don't think like OBJ. Okay, like obviously he's not the same player like he was in New York. That's like, and he lost Christian Wilkins. You didn't really cover that. So it's like. And then Tua, obviously, with his weight loss, if he takes one big hit, like that's what I'm worried about. That's why I have that Dolphins. Now, obviously, they could be higher. Wouldn't it be surprised that they win 10, 11 games? No, I mean they won 10 games. I think they won 11 games last year, whatever. But I'm just worried. I just don't think they got better, in my opinion.
You know, the one thing, and Keys, this is a great point. McDaniel seems to put too much on film too early. When I watched the Dolphins last year, there's a lot of motion, there's a lot of shifting. It's really not a complex offense. You can kind of see what they're doing. I think teams are going to figure out McDaniel a little more this year. I think, if I'm correct, is second. They were second. Dallas was number 1. Miami was number 2, and I think both those offenses could take a step back this year. So. But yeah, we're going to find out because I mean, but I was a little surprised about Miami, but I was really surprised about Cleveland. But I also get it. The AFC North it's loaded. It's loaded. Perry says, do you feel T-Law can become a superstar quarterback this year? Can Bryce Young development this year? We'll start off with Keys here. We'll start off with Trevor Lawrence because you picked him as the MVP and that did not work out.
Wait, Trevor Lawrence. Okay.
I believe that was you that picked him as.
Yeah, I tried. You caught me.
Yeah, listen. You know what? I didn't think it was going to happen last year, and I have not seen growth from Trevor Lawrence, right? Because I believe we talked, even Dan, with you talking about his MVP candidacy. Mm-hmm. You know, we were talking about, they made the trade for Ridley when he was suspended, so they were going to have him last year. Yeah. And they were going to have all these receiver additions. Of course, they've only went out and doubled down on bringing in receivers there as a strategy, but like you haven't seen the growth from him, right? Like, as much as I dog on Joe Burrow for having 2 number 1 wide receivers, or even Justin Herbert for having 2 number 1 wide receivers, or, there's like 3-4 teams you can talk about that with, you could even argue last year that Pickett had 2 and Deontay Johnson, if you look at some of the different analytics out there, and Pickens, like these different teams, Tua with Tyreek and Waddle. And you can dog these guys, Jalen Hurts with Brown and Smith. But at least they're putting up the results, right? You're not seeing that from Trevor Lawrence, with the receivers that he has. And they're not all, they're not the same caliber. But, even for as good as the guys in Houston are, right? CJ Stroud and those receivers were doing great things. You haven't seen that from Trevor Lawrence. So I think at some point soon, you kind of have to just, turn the page there and realize he's basically, maxed out his ceiling.
Keaton, Now, are you on the boat that Trevor Lawrence? Well, actually, let's not put words in your mouth. Perry asked, "Do you think Trevor Lawrence can become a superstar quarterback this year?"
I mean, I think he can. I mean, like I said, look, I want to backtrack a little bit with the Jags. Like last year, they had one of the easier schedules, and I remember because they did have one of the easier schedules last year, and they still, I think they went like 8-9 last year, I believe. Just
Yeah, they were 7-3 and just
yeah,
fell
they started
apart.
hot. Yeah, so like I like the Brian Thomas Jr. addition in the draft. I think that's going to give Lawrence another weapon to work with on the outside. Like I said this before, I just don't think he has any more excuses this year to not perform. I mean, they have talent on that side. I think they should be in the mix to compete with the Texans for that division. I'm not saying that I'm not saying that they're better than Texans, but I think they're the team that I believe that can challenge Houston for that division. So it's like, it's really just put up or shut up year for Lawrence. I think he can be, a superstar. I think he is a superstar quarterback. It's just going to be a matter of, can he get it done when it matters, and can the Jags win those games? And there's some games that they lost last year that they should have won. So, yeah.
Denver Gator brings up, we were talking about which rookie quarterback would be the best. He says Penix because Cousins won't be back until October. Washington sucks and Daniel Seats eats some cheeseburgers. JJ is mid and May starts too late. Hashtag Bose knows, but Caleb by default. Like, what a great comment here. I'm behind on some of these comments here. Can Bryce Young develop this year? He has to, or I don't know what you do. At Keys, how will the AFC West finish out? Do you think the Chargers can challenge Kansas City for the division this year?
Division?
Wow.
That's a good question.
You heard it here. You heard it, Keys. Are the Chargers, which is the preseason favorite to win the Super Bowl every year, is this the year?
I think the Chargers are kind of in a mini rebuild here. It'll be interesting to see what Herbert looks like without Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. Like, Mike Williams made some hell of a Let me just put it this way. If you take those guys away from Herbert in previous years, the Chargers aren't even close when they're playing Kansas City. So it'll be interesting to see, how much Herbert has progressed. You're losing your center, who was a Pro Bowl center, helping Herbert, when he was younger with his protections and stuff, and you're losing those two guys who catch everything thrown their way. So it'll be interesting to see what they do there. I think that Jim Harbaugh's offense is going to be an interesting one. I don't think that it's going to work out for him the way he thinks is going to work out for him this season. Like, if there was a team out of the three teams, I would think that probably the Raiders are the closest to challenging for the division.
No, I actually agree on that. And before we dive on this list, I'm going to read some of these comments here. Keys has a great one. I get being down on Bob and Mac Jones, and I agree Mac Jones isn't the answer.
Bill O'Brien.
Yeah. And then they got weapons now, probably the quarterback. Alex Van Pelt's interesting because, he's longtime quarterback coach. He's now the offensive coordinator. I'm assuming that he's going to run the same type of offense Stefanski ran, a heavy run offense.
That's what I've been hearing too.
Yeah, and if Stevenson can stay healthy, that's going to help. Rely on the running game. I got some questions about the Patriots offensive line. I feel like I've said that about 10 different teams. This is a great comment. He's like, this generation's Chan Gailey. You're 100% correct. I love this. Chan Gailey, better college coach. So we'll find out about Bill O'Brien.
That's not necessarily, a slight. Like Chan Gailey, Chan Gailey, because I know a lot of these people out here aren't Chiefs fans, created the Thigbone offense when Tyler Thigpen was our quarterback. So, like, he will cater around, he would cater around the talent and the needs of the players around him. He wasn't married to like one system, but he also wasn't highly successful either.
He was the head coach in Dallas after the Switzer era. I kind of hesitated.
Georgia Tech, was he at Georgia Tech for?
Yeah, he was at Georgia Tech. Yeah, and he had some success. He wasn't terrible. He wasn't good. He had some success at Georgia Tech. Probably should have stayed at Georgia Tech, to be honest with you. I think he left Georgia Tech, come back to the NFL. I don't remember that, but to tell you the truth, the Boston College Bill O'Brien thing, I'm kind of excited about to see what he can do. Keys has another great comment here. I think that while the Patriots might have great talent on defense, it doesn't necessarily mean that they have the coaches to maximize the talent like they did with Bill. And that's the whole thing. That's the whole $1 million question, is because I love what they have talent wise. Are they going to get the same thing without Belichick? It's going to be very interesting. I'm excited to see it. I'm excited to see it.
Mm-hmm.
I like the Rams. They had a good draft plus an upgrade there on their offensive line. Kupp is healthy and Stafford too. Yeah, we're going to talk about that 10 to 11 tier stretch here. I'm going to get caught up on comments, and I'm going to dive into 10 and 11 here because I know Keith hates the entire 10 to 11 list, and I have an interesting I have some things here. Can the Browns really count on Watson? I have no idea. I don't think. I think Keys. I'm sorry, Keaton. You have them as a 7-9 to win team. Is it because Watson's not going to play a full season, or you just don't think he's that good?
I mean,
he talked about Watson in the video.
Oh, it's a mixture. I mean, it's a mixture of both. Like, I don't think Watson. Like I said, you traded all those picks, and you banked your money on Deshaun Watson. They were hoping that they would get the Deshaun Watson that was in Houston. That hasn't really been the case so far. And then on top of that, I'm not questioning the Browns' talent. Like, their defense is phenomenal. I love Myles Garrett. Nick Chubb, I think he's the best running back in football. No questions asked there. But they, like I said, no one's talking about their hardest schedule in football this year. On top of being in the low division with the Steelers, with the Ravens, they're not going nowhere. The Bengals, I think, like you mentioned before, Dan, about how they were 9-8 last year without Joe Burrow. I think they're going to make a huge I think they're going to improve, obviously, this year. So I just think they're stacked up in a stacked division on top of having the hardest schedule in football. And like I said, it's all going to come down to Deshaun Watson, in my opinion. What type of Deshaun Watson are we going to get? I think if he can be somewhat what he was in Houston, the Browns could surprise. I think they can be a wild card team at best. I don't think they're going to win a division, obviously.
I also question if Nick Chubb can come back healthy because, I mean, I did it in college. Oh, God, he was so much fun to watch at Georgia. And then, injury. If he's 100%, I think he's the best running back in football. But it's that Denver Gator has a great comment here. Dolphins windows closed last season, mid for the next few years. They beat the Bills at home. They host a playoff game, and instead they go where it's -50 and Tua froze to death. They lose Van Geekel, Xavier Howard. I think both are inside linebackers. I know Baker is, I think, in Tennessee.
He's Seattle.
Seattle. I'm sorry, Jerome Baker's in Seattle.
Yeah,
Wilkins. Nobody wants to see him as a Raider. That's some bullshit right there.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That was some fucking bullshit. I'm still mad about that. But yeah, their best chance was last year, and I'm not sold on McDaniel. We'll find out. And lots of people aren't sold on Watson. This is a great comment here. The Key says OBJ has to be that safety valve. I agree completely. This is a great this is fantastic comment. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I don't even know if he can be that anymore. I mean, they benched him in Baltimore after Baltimore gave him 18 million, 15?
Something. It was I think it was around 15 or something. Yeah, that was crazy. Yeah.
Let's see here. Thomas, you never know from rookies, but Perry believed that Brian Thomas Jr. was the number one receiver in the draft. And he's been saying that for months. And if he is that good, I mean, we're talking Marvin Harrison Jr., Rome Odunze, drawing a blank on the kid, Neighbors.
Neighbors, yeah.
Yeah, so we'll find out. Perry, let's do this here because I got some more comments I want to get to, but since you're asking about Leggett, we'll kind of combine them here at 10-11 wins here. So 10-11 win list here. Keys, you hated this list from Keaton. You just been destroying it left and right. No, I'm sorry, Keaton. I cut you off.
Oh, no. I was going to say, I one team I was iffy on a couple of teams on. I was debating if I should put him like the 7-9 or 10-11. I have a couple of teams here, but I'll let you speak first before I get to that.
Well, I mean, let's just dive in this list because Keys said you only got 3 teams right, so Keys hates this whole list. But Keys 10-11, which stood out, and then if you don't mind, what about Leggett, who you know what, Perry, I apologize because I got the 2 receivers mixed up. I thought I got Keon Coleman mixed up because I've been seeing a lot of hype about Bills fans talking about Keon Coleman's going to be wide receiver number 1. You got Leggett, who's we'll hit on that later. But Keys, 10-11 wins here. What do you like? What don't you like?
Yeah, like to me, I think these 2 tiers are basically spot on. Like I can't really argue much with this one, and especially with the justification, right? Like Keaton gave great, you guys need to watch the video. He gave great justification with things, right? Because, like the Jets, it really does depend on Aaron Rodgers coming back healthy and what he looks like, to what the Jets can be. I mean, they could possibly even get up into that top tier if Aaron Rodgers looked like he did, a few years ago. But, I still think that Rodgers was declining on his way out of Green Bay, especially the last, playoff or 2 that I saw from them, from him in particular. But yeah, like if you get anywhere close to Aaron Rodgers, like normal season with the talent the Jets have, I think they're justified being there. It's really hard to argue with the logic that Keaton gave for putting all these teams here. The Bills and the Bengals, and I'm not being a hater here, are interesting ones because, for all the talk that their quarterbacks get, I'm still not, I think they could upgrade their head coaches, but, it's been the defenses that have carried them into the playoffs each year. Like they've been protected a bit by their defenses. And that's usually what happens. They get to the playoffs protected by their defenses, and then the defenses disappear a little bit and the quarterbacks aren't enough in the playoffs to turn the corner there. And so I wonder, a little bit with the Bills in particular, talking about the Bengals, winning 8 or 9 games without Burrow. Again, that's because he's a system quarterback. No, but he does. Browning still did have the weapons there. And I don't think that the games they lost were necessarily because they didn't have Joe Burrow and they had Browning instead, but because Lou Anarumo was having to work around losing one of the best safeties in football really hurt the Bengals.
It really
and did. If Joe Burrow hadn't gotten hurt, I think you would have seen similar results, and it would have tarnished Burrow. Like he kind of got lucky in a way, because I think this was going to be, the record was basically going to be the results anyway, because you're missing a hugely talented piece, at safety, who was just so instrumental in Lou Anarumo running his defense, right? The Bengals, the year before kind of lucked out with Ravens injuries, Browns and Steelers, they could have easily been 4th place in their division instead of first place.
Sure,
You know, 2 years ago, maybe even 3 years ago, I'd have to go, look at that. And they really did luck out from the rate. The Ravens were coming on last year. They were going to come on anyway because they were healthy for once, for the most part. And so, yeah, I mean, that division is hard. If you got the Deshaun Watson that was with the Texans, before the Chiefs divisional playoff game, the Browns could be the third best team in the division, and the Bengals could be, the fourth, or the Browns could be the second best, and the Bengals could be the third. But those two teams, and maybe I'm being a little haterish, but the defenses have lost some pieces over the last couple of years, and I'm not sold on the offensive play callers behind the quarterbacks.
Well,
for the Bengals, right?
Yeah,
for Bengals and Bills.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So the Bengals, it's interesting because what they did is they drafted Daxton Hill 2 years ago out of Michigan, and he was going to replace Jesse Bates. This offseason, they're moving him to corner. They got Von Bell back, and so you nailed it with Bates being gone. They had Bates do so many different things that he was such a key integral part. Without him there, that Dax Hill wasn't able to do the same things. And they thought he could because he played corner at Michigan and he played safety. And they're like, hey, we can use you. Because he played in the AFC Championship game. He was actually the starting corner. And they thought, oh, this is going to work. It didn't work. And they're moving him to full-time corner. Which I thought was interesting, bringing Von Bell back. I actually have no idea what that secondary is going to be like. But Perry's right, and they took some risks in the draft. So here's what they did. Defensively, they got solid players. They got 2 defensive tackles, solid players. If they pan out, they'll both equal DJ Reader, who's in Buffalo. Or I'm sorry, he's in Detroit.
Detroit, yeah.
Even though he looked much better in Chiefs red. But on offense, they rolled the dice, and if it pans out, it could be explosive. I want to get through some of these comments here because I want to comment on the what I was most surprised about the 10-7 one. Big year for Joe Burrow, injured. Yeah, he's injured every other year, so we'll find out. Keys brings this up. Chubb's going to be 29 this December, coming off an injury. You just don't know who Watson's going. Exactly. He hasn't been the same since that first. What was it? First quarter. I just rewatched that not too long ago. What was it? The first quarter of that playoff game against the Chiefs, they were up 24-0, and then no.
Yeah.
I think it's more than that, Perry. I think the defense has to overcome some losses, especially Bates. I mean, but we'll find out.
The Jets.
This is a great comment. The Lions have $40 million in cap space, and don't be surprised if we sign Justin Simmons. That would be very interesting. That would be a big time move. We'll find us out here. And then I thought this was a great comment here. Don't worry about the Jets. They have Nathaniel Hackett, Rodgers combo, and Rodgers rubbed his Achilles with some healing rocks he found tripping balls in New Mexico.
And see, the thing is, the Jet, so where I had the Jets, I'm not confident at all about that. That's probably the only pick on that tier that the Jets could easily be moved down a tier or two. Because, like I say, it all comes down to their health at the end of the day. And then, Jets fans, for example, they just been doing a lot of, I understand they haven't had any success in God knows how long. But, everyone's, every Jets media page I've been on, they think they're going to win, 13 games and all that. I'm like, bro, can we just, just break on that? Just worry about making the playoffs first, and then we can talk about that. They're just getting their hopes up just to get disappointed once again. Come on, let's just wait a little bit. They do have a good roster, but I'm not buying it as of now until the season starts.
The team that really stood out to me was the Colts. This is a 9-win team. Anthony Richardson's already being held out of training camp because he's some soreness. I think it's soreness in his elbow. This is a guy that played in 5 games, got knocked out of 3, and he's your franchise quarterback who was raw as hell coming out of college.
Yeah.
But Keaton, about the 10-7, like I said, the Colts kind of stood out. So is this because you're all in on Anthony Richardson? Like he's going to be the next, I don't even know how you compare him, because somebody told me Josh Allen's the best athlete to play quarterback in NFL history. And I said, Anthony Richardson ran a 4.4 at 250. That's a better athlete.
Yeah.
But, is it all Anthony Richardson, or is this team just so good? I mean, because the Colts kind of stand out. You the 10-11 win team here, you have the Colts making the playoffs. Am I correct?
I think they can sneak in that 6-7 seed maybe. I mean, the thing is with the Colts, like look at last year. I mean, they were like literally 1 game out from making the playoffs. Gardner Minshew was the quarterback at the time, and then I can't remember who he threw the ball to, but it was like I think it was like a 4th and 1 or 3rd and 1, whatever. It was 4th and 1. Yeah.
What school did he go to?
I can't remember what school he go to. I can't remember on top of my head. But he threw it to the outside, and the dude just dropped the pass, and like that was the game right there. So it's like that play could have made a difference in them making playoffs.
Offensive skill position players failed. That's hard to believe, but yeah, he's an Iowa player.
And also,
who are we talking about?
So in the game between the Colts and the Texans, Gardner Minshew threw a pass on 4th and 1 to Tavion Banks, and Banks just dropped it, hit him right in the hands.
Tyler Jackson.
Oh, that's right.
Tavion Banks played for the Jags in like 2000.
I'm bad on names, but I got. By the way, Tyler Goodson shouldn't have been undrafted. He was a really good player. I liked him,
but you know what? If you're throwing him the ball, and you know he came from Iowa's offense, like that's your fault. So you can't even blame him for that. You gotta blame the coach straight up.
Yeah, here's the thing. If let's just say he does make that catch, there's no guarantee that CJ Stroud doesn't go back and get a field goal and win that game. There's no guarantee. But people blamed Goodson, but there's nothing. Minshew could have ran for the first down if I remember that play correctly, but we'll find out.
Oh yeah, he probably could.
Yeah. By the way, Keys, I'm glad you brought this up, as I'm surprised the Eagles haven't gone after Simmons with the Fangio connection. I'm kind of expecting it because they brought back CJ, GJ, and they still need. Yeah, I got my names wrong.
He's been around for that long. I didn't know he's okay. I didn't know.
Yeah, I got my names wrong here. I'm bad with names. This is why you always call her baby. That's just science here. Jets fans high on the hope. They brought the premium darkness retreat package. Keys, I've been saying that. Yeah, I'm glad you guys brought it up, because I was going to say I'm a little surprised this hasn't happened. I actually thought first week Simmons would be signed by somebody. Then I didn't see that, but he was on I forget which show it was. The dude looks like, I mean, the dude's massive. The dude's massive. So I got a new nickname for Dan, the Big Bird. But so Terrion Arnold's been locking up Brown at practice. It's only shorts, man. I hope it pans out for you, One Pride, and it's good seeing you in the chat. But just remember, it's just in shorts. When the pads come on, we're gonna have to wait and see. But yeah, I've given Keaton a lot of the business talking about Keys only liking 3 teams, but Keys is correct though. I really like the list, and the 10-11, 7-9. A few things that stood out, and I'm not disagreeing, but like I said, The Browns and Dolphins taking a step back, and the Colts taking a step forward. So, but yeah, I think that's what he weighed at the combine was 255. I might have to look that up, but still, he still ran a 4.4. So that's a big deal here. So matter of fact, with this note here from One Pride, let's talk about his 12 to 14 list. And if you notice, One Pride, Keaton believes that the Ohio State Buckeyes would win 12 to 14 games in the NFL this year. But let's take a look at this list here. We got 6 teams. And Keys, let me ask you this here. You said only 3. Actually, I can stop doing that joke here, but 12 to 14 win list here. There's 6 teams here. So the best 6 teams in football are on this list here. Kind of your thoughts here.
Yeah, I mean, you summed it up, and I would have to agree with that assessment. And I don't think they're necessarily put in order. I could be wrong about that, but I think the tier is basically 100% correct with the caveat. It's same caveat he gave for the Jets. Even though it's been a couple of years now, I still give it to the 49ers because it's always injury plagued season or like Super Bowl contending season. It's one or the other, right? And you never know, is this because they've had a couple of years of good health? So is this a trend? Or, reading the tea leaves, is this the injury plagued season? And so, but that could go for basically any of them. But yeah, I think this is 100% on. You're adding Vic Fangio, to that Eagles defense. So, you went from Pew Pew to Desai or whatever last year to Fangio, which is only going to strengthen. And it's weird because they've been collecting, right? And the Eagles are a great example of what I was saying earlier. Talking about the Patriots defense. The Eagles have been collecting talent on their defense for the last few years now. It has not been produced on the field, right? So, you can't just take the talent for granted. Fangio should be able to do that, but, the lack of buy-in that we were hearing, out of Dolphins players, once he left, kind of, I don't know, it's a little troublesome. And then, I mean, I can't argue with this list. You can kind of wonder some things like with the Texans, is the NFL going to figure out CJ Stroud a little bit? It can be a little bit harder a year or two, but it's not necessarily always the case. It is I don't know. I can't really argue with much of this list at all. These are the exact same teams I would probably have on here. Did we lose Dan?
We lose Dan. I was about to say,
are we in control of the show, Keaton?
I thought at the owl trip. I was like, do we lose Dan or is he? I thought he was behind the chat box or something. What happened?
That's crazy.
That's funny. I'm not in control of the clock. I know that. He must have lagged or something. I don't know why.
Yes. So he was talking about he wanted to talk about that 12 to 14 win jump for the Texans there.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you want me to talk about? Oh, okay.
Oh, I get it.
Right.
Oh no, he came back.
I technical difficulties, guys. I apologize. I'm so sorry about that. I know. Here's what happened, Denver Gator. They vetoed me off the island. I'm no longer good enough to be on my shows. I apologize about that.
One of Dan's high spenders on OF requested some private time.
So the premium gold content on my only. I apologize, everybody. I'm so sorry about that.
You're so good.
Let me. Let me dive into some of these questions here, because I do have one comment about this 12 to 14 tier that I thought was very interesting. Do I like Arnold in the draft process? Absolutely. You get great value at him at 24. And I'm going to tell you this right now, Rakestraw, the corner out of Missouri that you drafted in the second round, phenomenal talent. He may be a better day one player, but Arnold down the line. The one thing I want to tell you about, though, is Arnold was a free safety that switched over to corner. He may be a little raw, but if he's locking down Amon Ra in practice, that may – I'll throw this out there. I've seen a lot of players get that big contract and take a step back. So, yeah, I mean, the Ravens might – I don't think that's a hot take at all, but Keys, let me ask you this here. I mean, Baltimore at 12 and 14 team, you could still decline and be a 12-win team if you're the Ravens, right?
Yeah. It might be harder to be a 12 to 14 win team in that division, declining like that. But and that's something that we didn't really talk about, and I didn't even think about today. We talked about it in the past when it happened, right? When the Ravens lost basically their whole defensive coaching staff, but and even some of their defensive players as well. But you still have Kyle Hamilton there, which is going to allow them to do more, right? We talked about Jesse Bates, talking about some of these guys, like with the Bills losing, Poyer and Hyde, Kyle Hamilton, it is, I think whatever they do on defense is going to really help deafen a little bit some of those losses. But I don't think they're going to regress on offense, especially this is Monken's year 2, right? He had a pretty good year 1, he kind of learned some things. Now it's time to progress in year 2. I don't know if Derrick Henry is going to be the beast people expect him to be, but at the same time, it's like every year we wait for Derrick Henry's downfall, like we did for Brady from like year 37 to 45, and it's like everybody knows what the number of carries is for running backs before the decline. But, my thing is I'm just kind of wondering, because Derrick Henry has always been kind of a guy who needs to get more and more carries as the season progresses before he starts feeling loose, right? And we don't know if he's going to finally hit that wall or not, but is he going to get those carries? And, at some point you get guys fighting over the ball.
It was interesting because you lose the Dobbins and Bradley are both with the Chargers. I want to say it was Keaton Mitchell. He's progressing, but he may not be ready for the season. He was looking really, really good. Keaton Talks Sports says losing Patrick Queen on defense hurts. I don't know if you remember, but Trenton Simpson a couple years ago, I thought he could have gone in the first round. Ravens stole him in the third round. So they were preparing for this. And Trenton Simpson, in limited time on special teams, has kind of flashed. Is he going to be Patrick Queen? No, but it may. I think Clowney's going to hurt. They had a few other losses on that defense as well. But you have Kyle Hamilton, Raquan Smith is maybe the best middle linebacker in football. So we'll find out. But I don't think this is a hot take, and it will hurt. But I mean, hey, look, they were the 1 seed in the AFC last year. You can slip a little bit and still be an 11, 12-win team. But if you haven't seen it, that their schedule is brutal. The Ravens' schedule is brutal.
Ravens, Steelers, and the Browns, like they have the top 4 hard schedules.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say. They were the number 1 seed last year, but they didn't have the number 1 seeds schedule last year.
No, I mean, you take a look. I mean, early on, I mean, week one, Keys guarantees a loss week one for the Ravens. They come to Arrowhead. He said you can bet your life savings on it. So, I mean, that's kind of a lock here. One Pride says, I think Rakestraw is more raw. I actually disagree completely. Rakestraw started in the SEC. I mean, it's still weird for me to call Missouri an SEC team, but I think Rakestraw is more day one ready than Arnold. But we'll find out. I mean, we're going to find out. It's going to be fun. Ravens are bruised and battered with the North King. Henry rides again. We'll find out, man. I mean, he's 30, but
how much has he got left in the tank?
We'll find out. We're going to find out early. Hopefully he runs out of gas week one. Nobody wants to see the same thing that happened last year at Arrowhead. Nobody wants to see that bullshit. I know Clowney's not there. I mean, there's some legitimate questions about Baltimore, but I don't think it's a hot take to say that they're on the decline. I also agree with Keaton. I like that 12 to 14 range for the Ravens. I mean, the team's loaded. It really is. And I agree with San Francisco. The one team that really stood out is the Houston Texans. So Keys, now earlier, I'm going to stop doing that joke. Are the Houston Texans? I mean, Keaton's crowning them. So look at the list. The three best teams in the AFC: Baltimore, Kansas City, now the Houston Texans. It's not Buffalo. It's not who would be the number 4 team in the AFC last year. I thought it was only 3, to tell you the truth. You had Buffalo, Kansas City, and Baltimore.
Was it?
But is Houston on the same level as Baltimore and Kansas City?
I don't know if they are or not, but they don't have to be on here. They just have to be in a division that allows them to get to 12 to 14 wins, which is going to be a different story than being in the AFC North. So, I understand that. That's why the Bengals aren't on there, because you already have the Ravens on there, right? And you already have the other two in that 7 to 9, closer to 9 win teams there. So I think that's the bigger difference. The Texans certainly looked like the third best team last year in the playoffs, in the AFC anyway. And a lot of people thought it was going to be the Texans in the AFC Championship. So, or certainly we're hoping for, coming into the playoffs, thought that they would just dismantle Kansas City. We didn't get to see that game. But, the talk was still there, with the rookie quarterback and the young team they had. That talk was still there entering the playoffs. People were, that high on them. So to me, I don't see how you can knock them lower, especially when it's not like the other teams in the AFC South did something like so amazing, right? You can make a case for, like, say, the Bears in the NFC North. You can't make that kind of case, I don't think, right? I guess, Keaton kind of did for the Colts, but, even so, we don't know exactly what's going to happen there, but even so, look at the rest of that division, right? It could be the Texans and then the Colts, or it could just be the Texans. So I think that's the biggest difference in it.
Sure, yeah.
And to me, I'm fine with putting them, at 12 wins in that 12 to 14 win tier.
I touch base on the Colts real fast. Anthony Richardson, if he plays all 17 games, I mean, there's no ceiling on how good he could be. But what they did in the draft is they drafted in the second round Adonai Mitchell, the guy the Chiefs should have drafted. Or did I get the names wrong again? No,
you got it right.
I got Donnie Mitchell. Yeah, that's a receiver the Chiefs show. I'm hearing he's just destroying it in OTAs. Again, they're still wearing shorts, so we don't know. And then Latu, I kept on hearing TJ Watt comparisons. If he ends up being close to TJ Watt, which I don't know if he's that good, but you put him on that defense. Let's just say the defense improves and the offense gets better, and Anthony Richardson plays 17. 10, I mean, they could challenge for the division. But I think it's interesting because I love what the Houston Texans did in getting Danielle Hunter. I think he's going to be a great fit. You put him and Will Anderson on the outside. This is what you do. You build the team from inside out. You got your quarterback in CJ Stroud. You make a move for Diggs. It's going to be interesting because on paper, I agree that they're a 12 to 14 win team. When I watched them in the playoff game against the Ravens, it just looked like they weren't ready mentally. I thought talent wise, they were there. But this might be the year where they were like not only contending with Baltimore, but with Kansas City. I mean, I don't know.
I think Stephon Diggs being there is going to really it's really going to help their offense, in my opinion. Now, there's some questions about, what he did in Buffalo with Josh Allen. There's issues of, him not getting the ball consistently, but there were times where Josh Allen did give him the ball and he just simply dropped the pass. It's like, but I think with the young team that they have, I think he's going to elevate that offense a lot. I think he's going to help. And then they play the Buffalo Bills this year, so he's going to be highly motivated to try to win that game as well. And then the Ravens as well.
I actually forgot about that. I want to Arnold could be the next. We'll find out, man. We're gonna find out. I liked him in the draft process, and he slid all the way down to 24. By the way, I've been to the Tiger Stadium. This is the worst chant. This is terrible. So what they do, if you've never been to an MU game or you never watched it on TV, this is awful. Like, after they get a first down, one side of the field goes MIZ and the other side goes ZOU. And it's just irritating. It just One Pride says I have them at 10. Are you talking about your Lions? No, he's not. But actually, I have no idea what team. I know you're on board with them. Rakestraw is going to be really good, folks. And Keaton Talks Sports saying Cowboys could miss the playoffs.
I mean, even if they make it, like, we already know what the end result's going to be, like how it's always been with them, first round exit. So, yeah. You already know. You already know. Season can't come any sooner.
Oh God! If you are an Ohio State fan, you're overjoyed. And by the way, it just ignored the draft. They got a true freshman receiver who was it 3 years, two years from now is probably going to be a top five.
Oh yeah, he's probably knowing Ohio State.
This kid, just take my word for it. He's going to be the next great receiver. He's a true freshman. But you're talking about 10 to 11 for the Ravens. I could see it. I could see it. I could see them taking a step back. But I mean, for right now, I think 12 to 14 is pretty fair. But I mean, here's the deal: that AFC North is just brutal. I can make a case for all four of those teams being Super Bowl caliber teams. I really can.
I guess I would ask, like, where would you guys rank? I mean, you guys could chime in too. Where would you rank that division? Like, if you had to guess, right? And I know it's early. That division, anybody can win that division or come in first to last, but like,
all right, Keys, chime in here. I'll let you go first because I got my order already locked and loaded here. I already got my order locked and loaded. So AFC North.
In the AFC, I would probably put them number one. I would probably go AFC North number one, AFC East, and then AFC West, AFC South.
No, I miss Keaton. Did you want the divisions ranked or the teams in the AFC?
Oh, my fault. I said what would you rank the AFC North like division? Like who finishes first, second, third, fourth?
Oh yeah, okay.
Okay.
No, my fault. A bit messed up.
Keaton, quit making things confusing.
My fault.
Yeah, I would say if you just go in the order of your tiers, right? So Ravens, Bengals, Steelers, and Browns. Like, man, that's hard. Because again, like if old Deshaun showed up, you could swap it, and especially depending on like we haven't seen whatever they're going to try to throw, at the quarterback position in Pittsburgh. Man, if they made an Ayuk trade, though, I mean, it would be really hard to be the quarterback in Pittsburgh and screw things up. And that throws a whole wrench in the rankings anyway. But, unless old Deshaun shows up, like to me, it's hard to go any different than what you have with Ravens, Bengals, Steelers, and Browns. Just go from your tiers straight down.
I got the Bengals, and there's always one team that goes worst the first, and I think the Bengals are going to do it this year. I like the changes that they made on defense. I'm a little worried about that safety position. That really scares me. But they drafted 2 defensive tackles. They got 2 of my draft crushes at defensive tackle. Miles Murphy was their first-round pick. Barely played. I think he's a guy that I think is going to be a stud this year. I think he's going to be instrumental. So I think Amaruno is really going to crank up that defense this year. I think they realized that they can't replace Bates, and they're going to do something different. I think I said this before. I think Tennessee's going to be the worst team in football. I think the Bengals aren't going to miss a beat losing some of their offensive coaches. So I think I got the Bengals, then I got the Ravens, then I got the Browns. And I hate to say it, but I think this will be the first year that Tomlin has a losing season because while I like the defense, and I like the offensive line additions in the draft, I have no faith in Russell Wilson. I think it's going to be a disaster. I think he could get benched. I think it's just going to be. I think it's going to be a disaster. Denver Gator says I think the Bengals are the only team capable. The only team that I have, and I have 2 dark horses. One is the Patriots and one's the Saints. The Patriots are like my super dark horse, and in order for them to go first to worst, the defense has to be top 5. Stevenson has to just be a monster, and Jacoby Brissett has to play some really good ball. But you'd also have to have like the Bills kind of fall apart, which I think is definitely possible. Rodgers didn't return to form, and I like the 7-9 wins for Miami, even though I teased Keaton quite a bit. I do. I think Miami's going to be a mediocre team. I don't care what they do.
Mm-hmm.
Fat Boys Club is going to get. So it's funny because they drafted Amarius Mims, who's 6'8", 340. And for the first time in his life, he's going to walk into the offensive line room, and he's going to be the 3rd biggest guy there. But there's no speed. There's all those guys. And they lose their offensive coordinator and offensive line coach, which are now taking over at Tennessee. But
I'm still a little bit worried about that pick, though, with Mims, because he only had from what I've heard, he only had 7 starts or whatever from Georgia.
It's a boom or bust. And here's I gave the Bengals a B+ because if Mims pans out, he's going to be one of the best left tackles in football. If it doesn't, you already got 2 starters. Jermaine Burton is getting starter reps because I think T. Higgins and Chase is sitting out of OTAs, and he's looking good. Super talented guy, questionable work ethic. It's kind of weird because a Nick Saban Alabama team, you usually don't hear of a questionable work ethic and attitude, but that's what you got from Jermaine Burton, who was a transfer to Alabama last year. So we'll find out. Brian Branch is about ready. He looked really good last year, man. He looked really good last year. Fields will start around the bye week. I actually don't know when the bye week is. I should know that. But I'll start with Keys here. Do you think Fields will replace Russell Wilson as the starter?
I think that's what would make the most sense. I don't understand the Fields trade if you're not planning on like trying to at least hope that he could be, a potential quarterback of the future. Even if that's just to drum up some trade value, so he's got to start at some point for that to happen.
The way I understood it is, I'm looking at Steelers bye. I had no idea. It's week 9.
Week 9,
yeah. I'll be honest. So the way it works is that it's a throwaway pick because after this year he's not under contract. But I mean, I don't understand why you wouldn't give him a shot, because with Russell Wilson, you're paying him almost nothing. Denver's picking up the bill. You got him on a 1-year nothing deal. You invested more in the Fields. To be honest with you, I thought it would have been a smarter move to trade for Fields and not even touch Russell Wilson. Am I just hating on Russell Wilson here? Am I just hating on Russell Wilson, or does it just make sense to have Fields as the quarterback there?
I mean, I agree. I mean, I think Fields will see the field this season. I don't think Russell Wilson is the same player, obviously. I mean, him and Sean Payton last year never got along throughout the entire season, and I just don't know what type of Wilson we're going to get. I mean, but most importantly, I think it's important for the Steelers to get off to a good start because, like I said, they don't play an AFC North opponent till week 11. And that last 6-7 games.
If you haven't seen it, I should have brought this up. Their last 6 games are the toughest 6 games in football. It's just brutal here. I'm going to go over this real fast here. If you're not aware, they play the Chiefs on Christmas, which is going to be on Netflix, which is really weird. But look at the schedule. Listen to the schedule here for the Steelers. Baltimore at home. Then at Cleveland for Thursday night, at Cincinnati, home against Cleveland, at Philly, at Baltimore, Kansas City on Christmas comes to town. That's a Wednesday game. So you play Saturday and then 4 days later. So it's back-to-back short weeks. And then finally the last game of the season is against the Bengals. That's just brutal.
Yeah.
That's brutal. And by the way, Denver Gator, from what I understand, Russell Wilson's already won the starting job because Arthur Smith's taken over as new offensive coordinator. You can't train 2 quarterbacks on the Arthur Smith offense, which is a little complex, but it worked in Tennessee with Tannehill, who's a little more mobile. That's why I thought Fields would make a lot more sense. After this year, both quarterbacks are not under contract, so which one would you rather have in 2025, Fields or Wilson? So,
my opinion, I think they should have kept Mason Rudolph. In my opinion,
yeah,
between him and Trubisky, and was it Pickett? I think he played better.
I thought he did
when he stepped in. Yeah.
I thought he was the best, and I never understood why they drafted him in the 3rd round, and I don't know why they didn't like the dude, and I that's the only thing I can think of is that maybe he's a dick in the locker room. I don't know. I have no idea whatsoever, but the Steelers, I firmly believe, and I hate it because I love Tomlin, but I think Steelers are going to have a losing record this year. That's my prediction.
Could happen.
That's my prediction. And I just want to say this here. I'm going to take the list away. By the way, if you joined late and you saw the Ohio State Buckeye helmet, Keaton is an Ohio State fan, but I did that as a joke. I actually put that on there. The link to his video is below, and Key said it. It's a fantastic video. He brings out some great insight. Check it out. The link's below. You don't want to miss out. We're almost 2.5 hours in, and I'm on the West Coast, so it's only 7:25. So let's see here. If the Steelers did trade for Ayuk, do you still agree with that? Keys asked. Keaton, what do you think? I'll start with you because I have my opinion.
If the Steelers did happen to trade for IU, do you still agree with like them finishing what, last or something? What do you mean by that?
Dan said that he thought that this would be Tomlin's first losing season.
I mean, if they got Ayuk, I mean, you could probably. I mean, they probably would still be close to that 500 mark. I mean, I said the same thing last year. I thought the Steelers would have a losing schedule, and for some reason, they still found a way to win 10 games, which that team was not good at all last year. They shouldn't have even been in the playoffs last year. But yeah, if they got Ayuk, I think going next, I think is George Pickens still there, I believe, or
Pickens is there. They got rid of Thompson. He's in Carolina.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think if you can get another receiver to go next to George, then I think that's going to be something right there on offense. But that's if that happens. But so far, you just never know. But I think it'll improve, yeah.
No, I was going to say, even if they got Brandon Ayuk, I think they're going to have a losing record. And it's just because I have no faith in Russell Wilson and giving him the starting job and Arthur Smith's system. You're bringing in a new offensive system, so you're going to have growing pains. The problem is Russell Wilson's just not the same dude. I think that one thing that Arthur Smith did really well is that they had Marcus Mariota, but then they realized pretty quickly that, hey, look, Tannehill's just better. Just forget the draft position. Forget that we gave up all those picks. Forget that he was the face of the franchise for a season. We're going to let the best quarterback play. I don't think they're going to do that in Pittsburgh. I think that they're going to find out pretty quickly that Justin Fields is better, but I think that they're going to just stick with Russell Wilson. That's just kind of the way they do things in Pittsburgh. So it's just kind of my thought process, and I think it's going to blow up in their face, and then we'll find out in 2025 what they want to do. Garrett had Rudolph fired, said he would take it easy on them. Garrett had Rudolph fired?
Wait, Garrett.
I'm drawing. I don't know who Garrett is. I don't know who Garrett is, so I'm drawing a blank. Keys brings up a great point. Hard to fathom the offense can look worse with growing pains than it did with Canada. No, the offense will be better, but it's just I just have no faith in Russell Wilson. I have no faith in Russell Wilson anymore. And I mean, Keaton says they're between 7 and 9, which means that they would be in the hunt for the wild card.
So I want to throw this out there. Like, I think Mike Tomlin is a good coach.
Yeah.
But the problem is, I feel like the Steelers, I feel like Mike Tomlin only cares about being just relevant, being just mediocre. Like, we go 9-8 every single year. Like, we're satisfied with that. I know Steelers fans I've heard saying that as long as Mike Tomlin is still here coaching, they're never going to win another Super Bowl. They're never going to win the playoff game, all that stuff. So it's like they just care about getting to the wild card round every year and losing. Like, there's some people that even want him fired, which I kind of find crazy. But I mean,
yeah, there are. I saw that.
Yeah.
By the way, so this I forgot about this. So Myles Garrett. For those of you who don't know, I think it was 4 years ago at the end of Sunday. It was Sunday or Monday night. Myles Garrett ripped off Mason Rudolph's helmet and hit him with it, and
that was crazy.
Yeah, and so a couple days later, Myles Garrett came out after he was going to be suspended. After the suspension, he said he did it because Rudolph called him the N-word. I find that really hard to believe that happened. I find it really hard to believe because if he did that, he probably would have said it immediately, not waited till after he was suspended.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, like NFL locker rooms are what 85-90% black. Like I don't believe. By the way, they did like make up. They made up or whatever, but
Yeah, that was crazy. Like,
it was nuts, man. It was really nuts, man. I thought I knew Garrett wouldn't be suspended long term, but that offseason before Garrett came back, the Browns signed him to a big contract, and it worked out really good. I mean,
yeah,
Garrett's probably going to be in Canton someday. Phenomenal player, and I don't know. Maybe some people think that Miles. Maybe that's why he's in Tennessee now instead of Pittsburgh. But I didn't. Rudolph looked like the best quarterback out of them, so I don't know. Keys is on fire. Russ can't even cook. Yeah, I do. I think this is just going to be terrible. I think Russell Wilson's just going to be terrible, and I think they're really going to regret not giving Fields an opportunity, that's my prediction. That's why I think the Steelers have a losing record. So, like I said, I'm on the West Coast here, so it's still early for me. I know Keaton's on the East Coast. He says he has some wild parties to go to tonight. Keys is going to be partying tonight. I know this for a fact. So we're going to go ahead and kind of get this wrapped up. Peach cinnamon rolls.
Been working on
peach cinnamon roll. Okay, Keys, you got to elaborate. I've never heard of peach cinnamon rolls, so please explain this.
It's some recipe she found. She sent me the video. It looks good. I won't get to eat it though.
Yeah. Actually, I've never heard of it. So okay. I think I've asked this to Keys, but Keaton, I'm going to ask you here because somebody told me this and this blew my mind. I didn't know it was a big. I never heard of this before, but apparently they do this in Cincinnati, and apparently they do this in other parts of the country. Cinnamon rolls and chili.
What? Whoa, hold on.
Yeah.
Chili. What?
Yeah. Apparently it's a big thing. Somebody told me this, and I was like, "You're out of your mind. There's no way you put these foods together." But
in Cincinnati, that's a big thing in Cincinnati.
No, it's a Midwest thing from at least 30 years.
I've never heard of this until recently, and it blew my mind. So Cincinnati has that horrible spaghetti chili crap that is just disgusting. Okay, so Holly's heard of this.
And cinnamon rolls and chili like that.
I know. Okay, so thank you, Keaton, for having that perplexed expression because that's what I said.
I never. That's every school lunch in the Midwest for like the last 30, 40 years. Like
school lunch.
This has been a combo. When they serve chili, they also serve cinnamon rolls. So like instead of just like, if you ate a meal like fried chicken, mashed potatoes, or whatever, and you had like a roll, this is just chili and a cinnamon roll on the side, right? And so you might clean out your chili bowl, by ripping up some of that cinnamon roll and dipping it in there.
I went to school in Missouri, and we didn't.
It's crazy.
I seriously just heard about this like a few years ago, and it blew my mind. Like I don't understand.
It's not a Cincinnati thing, so let's not even like.
I thought it was
poison it with that. No, it is Midwest.
That spaghetti chili god awful combination, which is just it sounds disgusting. It's horrible. And Keaton, now you're close to Cincinnati. Have you ever tried this famous chili like? The spaghetti, Keaton.
I've never had. I'm just hearing about this today. So that's
really.
I had it once, and it's terrible.
So
I've heard of it. I've never had it. I was like, that's
no. It sounds awful. He's tried it, and he says it's awful. And Keaton, so is that what you're going to do this weekend? Try some of that famous Skyline chili? Is that your wild weekend?
Skyline chili is I'm not about the Skyline.
I'm not either. It just sounds awful. And
I didn't even know that was still around. I thought they still have a lot of those around, but no, I'm not big on Skyline like other people are. A lot of my friends are, but not me.
Really? Okay, so
Yeah.
your friends are into that. Okay.
They're into that, yeah. Definitely.
I can honestly, I like trying different foods, but I can honestly say that I will never try that Skyline chili.
There's a reason that I call Bengals fans triple S's.
I mean, if they're doing stuff like that, I could agree with that. But dang, that's cinnamon rolls and chili. That is, yeah.
I've never heard of that until recently, and I thought it was a Cincinnati thing, but it's a Midwest thing, and I've
No, because Cincinnati can't even make good chili.
Cincinnati cannot do any. There's a lot of goofy stuff with Cincinnati, and one pride agrees that Tomlin will not. Oh, he will. He will have. Yeah. Okay. So you think Tom? Listen. This year he's not, but if they get the quarterback situation ironed out, like there's going to be some free agent quarterbacks available in 2025 potentially. You could have Dak, Sam Darnold, who I think can be I had such a man crush on Sam Darnold coming out of college.
Dak Prescott is interesting.
Yeah, Dak Prescott, I can see in Pittsburgh easily.
Yeah, that type of quarterback there. Yeah,
it's funny. We did this. We kind of glossed over Dallas a little bit in this video because I mean they're a team that if they don't get to the Super Bowl, the head coach could be fired. Dak could be fired. They could clean house and we kind of glossed over that, but I think there's been enough talk about the Dallas Cowboys in sports media that we don't need to have it today. So we'll just leave it at that here. But since I've had you guys on for over 2.5 hours, I want to get you out at a decent time. You're nice enough to join. I love talking to you guys. I have a blast here. So just final thoughts, words here. I'll start off with Keaton, man. Keaton, any final thoughts, words, anything? Before you say anything, though, the video is below. Check it out. Keaton says a lot of good things about it. It was a great video. I enjoyed it. Keys enjoyed it. So check it out.
Yeah, I mean, thank you. Like I said, thank you for having me on. It's always a blast coming on here. Keys, it's good seeing you. Obviously, can't wait to get to the season. I know it's only June, but just every day it's closer. So I'm just can't wait for the season. It's going to be an exciting one for sure.
All right, hey, Keys, man. I kept you here late. Here, I know you're dying to get some cinnamon rolls and chili together, which is still weird, but. I'm so glad to see you, man. We finally get you back on. We haven't talked much lately.
Yeah, it's been a crazy couple months, and I know it's been crazy for you too, Dan. But it's been good to get on here, guys. My battery's gonna die. One of the kids just busted through the door. He has a habit of just busting through like he's a Kool-Aid man or something. So
actually, sounds pretty awesome,
But yeah, Keaton, good to see you. Dan, it's good to see you as well. And yeah, check out Keaton's video. It really was, despite what Dan said, I really did make it like 35 minutes being like, Dan wants me to disagree with something, and I'm not really finding much, So great job on that, Keaton, and gave us a great video.
It's a great list, man. It's a great list. I mean, I brought up some bullet points and things I found interesting, but I mean, there's nothing on here that has me going, oh, you messed up. No, I thought it was a great list, and there's a few bullet points of things I found interesting. But I mean, I really liked it. I really liked it, and hopefully I can get you guys back on again before the season and during the season. Hopefully I can have you guys on. I'm doing something a little different with the show this fall. I haven't really brought it out because I've shared with you guys personally. I've just been working a lot, so I haven't had a chance. But hopefully, I'll have some time in the next couple weeks, kind of update the channel and let everybody know what's going on this fall because I have some big plans this fall. It's going to be a lot of fun. So,
Definitely.
If any of you guys don't have anything else, I'm going to go ahead and end it at 2.5 hours. Check out Keaton's video. And guys, I hope you all can come back on Friday, next Friday.
Peace out.